Chapter 61, The Emperor's Appointment. Commanding soldiers? Chun Sansi wasn't too surprised. Even riding a horse would have a proficiency level, so it wasn't strange that commanding soldiers had one as well. Perhaps previously, because he was just a small flag with too few people under him, he hadn't met the activation conditions for this skill. It seemed that in the days to come, there would be one more thing to be busy with. Archery, horse control, martial arts, reading, commanding soldiers is a bit overwhelming. But having many skills does not burden one. Since he had chosen to join the army, he naturally had to learn to lead troops in battle and not just be a dead soldier who charged into enemy lines. Chun Sansi finished counting the number of people in the martial arts arena. A total of 115. That was a few more than the full quota managed by households. And most of them were young, like Wu De, who was only 16. There were also middle-aged men like Zhao Qiao, but not many. Chun Sansi had a photographic memory, firmly imprinting each face and corresponding name in his mind. He clasped his fists and said, "Thanks to everyone's kind support, willing to follow me. From now on, we are brothers. You can get to know each other first and then go home and get ready. Starting tomorrow, I'll personally teach you martial arts." Central Army Camp. Sir, this shouldn't be allowed. Luo Dongquan watched the scene at the martial arts arena from a distance. These people came for that kid, and now they're all under his command. Isn't this the equivalent of setting up an independent power base within the households? Old Luo, do you think I'm being too indulgent with Chun Sansi? Xiang Tingchun poured tea for himself from a purple sand teapot, his voice devoid of any agitation. Think about it. Why am I doing this? You value talent, Luo Dongquan had to concede. This boy indeed has exceptional natural talent, and his future is boundless. Value talent? Haha. Xiang Tingchun couldn't help but laugh. What use is my valuing talent when come spring, he flies up to the branch and becomes a phoenix? What ties will he still have to me? Luo Dongquan bowed his head. Please enlighten me, sir. You just mentioned being worried about him having his own hilltop? Xiang Tingchun looked at the villagers on the martial arts arena, who couldn't even line up properly. Do you think after a few months, how many of them will still be standing here? I understand, Luo Dongquan said with realization. Sir is winning people's hearts. This way they will willingly go to their deaths. Even if that kid is eligible for selected point, according to the governor mansion's way of doing things, they won't let him leave before the battle. So, he might very well die on the battlefield too. Xiang Tingchun said sternly, Glad you understand. So there is no need for you to continue holding a grudge against him over the selected point matter. If he is still alive after next year's campaign, and you have the guts, I won't interfere with whatever you want to do. But right now, there are a lot of situations we need to deal with. Xiang Tingchun said in a grave tone. I've received news that the new appointed magistrate is recommended by Elder Yen, handpicked by the emperor. Handpicked? Luo Dongquan understood the implication. A mere 7th-rank magistrate doesn't need to be handpicked unless something big is about to happen in the place he's appointed. Xiang Tingchun scoffed. And accompanying the magistrate is the magistrate of the larger region. For the sake of the Song family? Luo Dongquan asked. Could this cause trouble? We all serve the crown prince. What can he do to me? At most, he can just throw a fit, Xiang Tingchun said with a resigned sigh. The emperor, the crown prince, the governor mansion, the powers of 3 sides meet here in our small Piyang county. Even I don't know what will happen next. Old Luo, you will have to offer me more support. Rest assured, sir. I am at your command at all times. On the ancient road the western wind sweeps past, and stallions gallop as the sunset casts a red glow and the day's light fades. Upon the seemingly endless official road, 2 red-maned stallions race, one before the other. Leading is a young woman, followed closely by a fair-faced young man, both around 18 or 19. Clad in a tight-fitting red dress, the woman's delicate hands pull on the reins, her slender waist sashaying with a saber slung at her side. Her natural beauty is framed by a halo of clouds. Her flawless complexion speaks the language of flowers, and although her hair is styled elegantly, an air of valor emanates from her. Sister, the young man trailing behind, equally handsome, carries a long spear and a bow and arrow on his back. He yawns and says, "Why do we meddle in the affairs of Selected Point? For a mere Payong County town, is it worth it for us to traverse mountains and rivers? As closed-door disciples, should we not be prudent?" The woman spoke with an earnest tone, her voice cool and serene. "Moreover, we have other tasks at hand." "Military deployment?" The young man sighed. "This affair clearly smells of the Crown Prince's doing, and it's unstoppable. Father had clearly promised that after the barbarian conflicts ended, he would return to his fields. Yet they still refuse to wait. Over the years, they've been planting their own generals everywhere, even sent a supervisor to Liangzhou, and have stuffed many of their people into the 8 camps. What's most detestable is the eldest apprentice brother. Sister, for their Chao family's empire, how many of our Sun family have died over the years? Big brother, second brother, and... It's not just for Selected Point. Sun Li's eyes gleamed with profound depth. There are other matters we need to investigate. Investigate what? Why didn't Father tell me? Would it be of any use if he told you? Sun Li noticed the sudden quiet behind her, and slowed down her pace to look back. The young man had, at some unknown moment, reined in his horse and silently raised a 3-stone heavy bow, aiming towards a poplar grove flanking the official road. On a patch of open ground about 70 paces away, a hare was nibbling at the grass. He pulled the bowstring taut as a full moon, his gaze determined and his posture perfect. After aiming carefully and finding the right moment, he suddenly released his fingers. The arrow whistled through the air with imposing force. A loud thwack rang out as the arrow skewed off course, striking the trunk of a poplar tree half a meter away from the hare. The hare glanced at the arrow shaft, then at him and continued to graze. Question mark. Enraged, the young man drew another arrow and let it fly. This time, the arrow simply vanished without a trace. Nowhere to be seen. A grievous miss. This is too much. The young man stowed his bow, took up his spear, and spurred his horse into a gallop, charging straight into the poplar grove. Only then did the rabbit realize the danger. Tried to flee, but it was too late. Hiss! With a spear thrust, the young man pierced the rabbit, lifting its body high with satisfaction. Got it! Sun Buki! The woman in red closed her eyes, biting down on her silver teeth. If you truly don't wish to go, then go back to Liangzhou by yourself. Sister, don't be mad. I just couldn't resist hunting when the opportunity arose. I'm ready to leave now. Sun Buki, with a playful smile, carefully stowed the rabbit and returned to the official road. You spend all day hunting and shooting birds. What a sight. Sun Li chided him as if she were frustrated with his refusal to meet her expectations. With the way you act, what will become of the 8 camps in the future? Sister, I never once imagined taking over the 8 great camps. Sun Buki hastily responded. Wouldn't it be lovely to go back to our old home and wait for Father to lay down his arms and return to farming? Are you truly prepared to continue serving the old emperor? Sun Li fell silent, her heart burdened with worry. Retire from military service and return to civilian life? Anyone could do so except for their family. Without someone continuing to wield military power in the army, did they truly believe the old emperor would let the Sun family land safely? Such naivety. The siblings continued their journey. Finally, before nightfall, they could vaguely see a small city emerging at the end of their line of sight. Payong County Town, they had arrived. Chapter 62 Guard. Courtyard. Chun Sansi took advantage of the medicine's effects to practice his spear technique. The utility of the bone-nourishing soup, in conjunction with the regulation of the breathing skill and chi blood, conditioned his muscles and bones, producing a tingling sensation that made the pain inflicted on his body less intense. Cultivation technique. Undying golden snake spear upper. Not entered. Progress. 65 out of 100. Utility. Blood of dragon and elephant. In a few more days, I'll be able to train my muscles. After muscle training, I'll visit Medicine Valley. Recently, the number of live disappearances has greatly diminished. Presumably, the martial arts halls have restrained themselves, but not completely ceased. Chun Sansi had also tried other uses of lamp oil. For example, feeding a tiny amount to a rat. Then the rat died. Clearly, this stuff was not for eating. It was most likely for starting fires. Ha! Chun Sansi wiped off his sweat and sat down at the stone table under the courtyard's plum tree, flipping through a few military books. In the past 2 days, he had summarized 2 methods to improve his proficiency in commanding troops. 1. Read military books and learn theoretical knowledge. 2. Preferably practice military formations. Actual combat would definitely improve proficiency, but there was no opportunity at the moment. Leading troops into battle is indeed a technical job, not just about taking a group of people to fight and that's it, he thought. Chun Sansi benefited greatly. Before deploying troops, planning must begin half a year or even longer in advance. Decide how many men and weapons are needed, how much food and forage, how to transport them, and the estimates of losses. If it's a campaign, one also has to consider the weather and climate, the difficulty of the journey, whether soldiers will be acclimated or face ambushes, and if so, where it's most likely to occur. When dealing with a large number of troops, even relieving oneself requires special arrangement, not simply a matter of pulling down one's pants. War is an extremely complicated affair, not something one person can take complete charge of. It requires the collective operation of an organization. This demonstrates the importance of having capable people as subordinates. Also, military formations. According to the military books, special formations can enhance the combat power of soldiers to some extent. For instance, killing a martial artist who has achieved great success in blood refining with a lower-grade technique usually costs about 20 lives. Under a special formation, the number can be reduced to 15. It doesn't seem like that much on paper, but each digit represents a living person's life. Small numbers add up, and a lot of manpower can be saved after a battle. However, since they are called special formations, naturally not everyone can learn them. Firstly, the commander himself must understand it. Military books have illustrations of formations, many based on the principles of 8 diagrams, which ordinary people cannot fathom and require time for in-depth study. Secondly, even if one understands it, they must be able to use it. Practice is practice, combat is combat. No matter how ingenious the formation, if it breaks after a single charge or falls into disarray once attacked, it is as good as useless. Therefore, remote garrisons usually train in the most basic fundamental formations. Only elite troops will apply special formations in actual combat. The top armies will even have formations composed of martial soldiers. Formations are still a long way off. Chun Sansi had just finished teaching them pile work. He hadn't even distinguished between military soldiers and array soldiers. But fortunately, teaching martial art skills also counted towards progress. Skill: commanding soldiers, not entered. Progress: 48 out of 100. Utility: none at the moment. He should be able to enter the initial stage before the new soldier's assessment ends. Chun Zongqi, assemble. The voice of Fang Zongqi came from outside the door. What's this about? Chun Sansi opened the door. It was still the noon rest time. Fang Zongqi explained. Lord Prefect and the new county magistrate have come together to inspect our household's garrison soldiers. Which prefect? And Ding Prefect? Chun Sansi inquired. After receiving a positive response, he couldn't help but think back to the threats made by old Five Song before his death. He wasn't nervous, deciding to wait and see how things unfolded. Following Fang Zongqi to the martial arts arena, most of the soldiers had already lined up, waiting for the inspection by their superiors. Theoretically, the civil and military officials of the Great Qing dynasty were independent from one another, each with their own system of checks and balances. There was no hierarchy, and county magistrates did not have the right to inspect the troops. Unless, of course, he was representing the faction of the Crown Prince, who supported this military expedition. The crowd didn't have to wait long. Roughly 10 minutes later, Xiang Tingchun arrived with 2 civil servants, surrounded by numerous martial artists. The man walking in front was dressed in a noble scarlet robe, embroidered with geese in the clouds on the front, signifying his status as a 4th-rank prefect. The other was wearing a blue robe, embroidered with the motif of cormorants, indicating his position as a 7th-rank county magistrate. They did not give any speeches, simply chatting among themselves as they passed through the ranks and entered the central army camp. Chen Sansi noted the details. The county magistrate showed no sign of ingratiating himself with the prefect, his superior. On the contrary, he even seemed somewhat arrogant. Chen guessed the fellow must have quite the backing. The county magistrate didn't stay long, leaving after just a cup of tea's time, while the prefect did not appear for quite a while. Just as expected. "Chan Zongqi, the Lord Prefect wants to see you," said Household's Commander Liu, coming over with the message and reminding in a low voice. "This man has the Song family backing him. They don't dare to touch Lord Thousand Households. But since they found out you're involved, they will likely look for trouble with you. Be very careful." "Thank you for the warning, Household's Commander Liu." Chun Sansi's brows furrowed slightly, but he was not afraid and headed straight for the camp. The charge of treason had already been decided. Regardless, they had no overt reason to act against him. Hiding was not a solution. Meeting face to face could clarify the other party's intentions, allowing him to find ways to cope. He lifted the tent flap. The atmosphere inside was not as tense as he had imagined. The spacious area contained only 2 people. The prefect in the scarlet robe sat in the principal seat, with a middle-aged bodyguard standing behind him. With a smile, the prefect began, "You must be flag leader Chen Sansi?" "I am," Chen Sansi replied, saluting with his hands. "Lord Prefect, for what do you summon me?" "I am a person who speaks his mind openly," the prefect said straightforwardly. "Flag leader Chen, your martial arts talent is extraordinary, and being confined to Piyang County does you a disservice. Why not leave this place and become a bodyguard in my mansion? I will provide you with ample resources for cultivation, ensuring your transition to Huajin is worry-free. What do you say? A bodyguard?" Chen Sansi was initially taken aback, then quickly understood. The offer seemed like a recruitment. In reality, it was a cunning form of eradication. With the annihilation of the Song family, the prefect as a backer, if he did nothing, how could he expect various martial arts halls to routinely pay tribute? But the act was committed by Xiang Tingchun, and he couldn't afford to offend the 1,000 households. So he could only target Chen Sansi, a minor flag leader. With the Tai Lei Martial Arts Academy's treason established, they couldn't publicly charge him with a crime. Considering that the prefect genuinely appreciated talent, he wanted to recruit Chen to his side and have him disappear from Piyang County, which would also serve as a form of appeasement to the martial arts hall. But Chen Sansi had not easily reached his current position, on the verge of joining the selected point in the 8 camps. Would he now go and serve as a dog to a mere prefect? He could even guess what the prefect would say next. As expected, the Lord Prefect said with a feigned smile, "Chan Zongqi, I mean well for you. With the start of the war campaigns this spring, your cultivation is still shallow, and on the battlefield, swords and arrows are unforgiving. If by some misfortune, what a waste of talent it would be." The implication was clear. Either accept to become a dog, or die in an accident. Killing intent surged in Chen Sansi's heart. From Qin Xiong onward, a series of troubling events had followed one another. He did not delight in violence. Alas, each time he did not strike first, others would. "I just want to practice martial arts in peace. Why must everyone force my hand?" He disliked the bullying from Xiang Tingchun. What prefect could withstand a bow of 15 stones? Chen Sansi resolved to deflect the matter for the time being. Just then, a cold, clear female voice rang out. "Magistrate Ji, Chen Zongqi is a selected officer officially under our governor mansion. Snatching him away like this, isn't that improper?" Chapter 63. Don't go out at night. A woman in red boldly stepped into the military camp. "Please forgive this officer's poor sight." Magistrate Ji could not help but size up the other party, puzzlingly asking, "Miss, who might you be?" This humble girl's surname is Sun, first name Lee. The woman unhooked a copper plate from her waist and held it high. "By the orders of Governor Mansion, I have come to Pyong for the selection officer role. Sun Lee." Hearing this name, Magistrate Ji suddenly awoke, standing up with a clasped fist. "Hee, who would have thought? The daughter of Lord Governor himself gracing us with her presence. This officer has been remiss. Miss Sun?" Chun Sansi couldn't help but take another look at the woman. Did Lord Governor really send his own daughter to Pyong for the selection officer role? Not just that. She definitely had other matters to attend to. However, it seemed that for now someone was speaking on his behalf so he could save himself a lot of effort. "Miss Sun, please do not misunderstand." Magistrate Ji's tone was much kinder. This officer also appreciates talent and merely wished to give Chun Zongchi another option. "Appreciates talent?" Sun Li bluntly stated. "How come I can't hear any kindness in Lord Prefect's words, but instead, I can sense quite a bit of a threatening tone?" Magistrate Ji defended. "This officer has no such intentions. Miss Sun must not speak recklessly." "Just joking. Don't take it seriously, Lord Prefect." Sun Li whispered to the young man beside her. "Chun Zongchi, I have something to ask you. May I have a moment?" Ji Guangxian watched the two leave, then sat back down in his chair. Right after, Xiang Tingchun walked in.
Magistrate.
Xiang Tingchun showed displeasure. "Are you aiming for my man? Do you have any idea how much trouble your slashing has caused me?" Ji Guangxian angrily said. "The 12 counties of Inding Prefecture, dozens of martial arts halls, their spittle nearly drowned this officer, and someone even pulled strings to send a petition to the cabinet. What would you have me do?"
Come yourselves, magistrate.
Xiang Tingchun shrugged indifferently. "I was also considering the greater plans for the spring. How could I dispatch troops without silver?" "Greater plans? You, a mere commander, dare to speak of greater plans? What a joke!" Ji Guangxian snorted coldly. "You're lucky. If it weren't for Crown Prince personally selecting officers above the refining internal level, your head would have already fallen." "Crown Prince?" Xiang Tingchuan's pupil shivered. "Magistrate Ji, the Crown Prince has heard of me? Do you deserve it?" Ji Guangxian sarcastically said without sparing any feelings. "It's only because Mr. Gao from the ministry respects you to some degree. If you truly make some achievements, he would naturally recommend you for further cultivation. This officer's visit to Pyong is also on the task assigned by Mr. Gao." Feeling humiliated, Xiang Tingchun, with a calm voice, asked, "What task?" "Investigate," Ji Guangxian said. "Is there a follower of the witch god sect hidden here in Pyong, holding something in their possession? Are you aware? This matter is of great importance. Even the emperor has decreed that the magistrate specially investigates this. Do not hide anything." Xiang Tingchun carefully omitted and half-truthfully explained the matters concerning the witch god sect. "Continue investigating," Ji Guangxian sternly said. "The merit for this case is no smaller than annihilating a barbarian tribe. Understood? This officer will thoroughly investigate. No need for the Lord Prefect to worry," Xiang Tingchun calmly replied. "All right, now that official matters are concluded, let us discuss some private matters." Ji Guangxian, still furious, pointed at his nose and said, "You need to give me an explanation for the matters concerning the Sun family. Can I still command respect in Inding Prefecture if Chun Sansi doesn't disappear from Pyong?" "Impossible, I need him," Xiang Tingchun scoffed coldly. "Moreover, you shouldn't be saying this to me, but to Miss Sunday. No one can stop me," Ji Guangxian firmly stated. "The more talented the boy is, the less he should be left to the governor. The better it would be if he could be of use to me. You also deserve?" Seizing the opportunity to counterattack, Xiang Tingchun scoffed. "He's been pursuing martial arts for 2 months and is already approaching bone training. Do you think he would regard you as a prefect? Besides, I may not bother if you want to make things difficult for him, but as a fellow official, it's necessary for me to give you a heads up. This young man's character is kind when described as kind, but discussing his ruthless and brutal actions, he even surpasses me. You can't convict him, yet you intimidate others. Think about the outcome of Old Fifth Song. Oh yes, he just ordered a 15-stone heavy bow from the forge. TSK. Lord Prefect, you should venture out less at night these days. If some mishap occurs, there's a high chance not even a corpse will be found. I would want to avenge you, but there wouldn't be any evidence. He wouldn't dare. Ji Guangxin was quite confident. If that happens, it would be a good reason to execute him. Xiang Tingchun said no more, gave him a look as if viewing a corpse, shook his head, and then turned to leave. Outside the military camps, among the fields, a man and a woman, one in red and one in blue, walked side by side. Sun Li habitually placed one hand on the hilt of her sword. According to the records of the Governor Mansion, you started martial arts after the autumn harvest. Now 2 months have passed. What stage have you reached? Although she was a woman and not old, her tone carried an authoritarian sense characteristic of a senior. Replying to the selected officer, Chun Sansi answered truthfully, I am currently undergoing bone training. Bone training? Sun Li's eyes initially flashed with surprise. Then suddenly she remembered something. Who rushed you into bone training? Didn't anyone tell you, practicing an inferior breathing skill then undergoing bone training will fix your chi blood quality, locking your future potential? Normally, after a selected officer enters the 8 camps, they receive a new breathing skill based on their qualification. They start to practice a medium or superior breathing skill to replace the previous inferior one. But after bone training, the quality of the chi blood is locked, and it can no longer be changed. According to the rules, the person responsible for teaching selected officers should make this clear. Chun Sansi was startled. Thinking something was amiss, he explained, Selected officer is overthinking it. The breathing technique I practiced is the vast righteousness breathing skill.
Vast righteousness breathing skill.
Sun Li reacted with surprise and suspicion. Who taught you that? This breathing skill indeed was a superior one. But it was also one of the hardest to learn, taught by the 8 camps selectively only to those whose qualifications were truly high. Wang Ji, 100 households Wang. Chun Sansi stated, the selected officer might know of him. Wang Ji. Sun Li inquired further, I don't know this person. What does he look like, and where did he get the vast righteousness breathing skill? Chun Sansi briefly described his physical characteristics. Could it be him? A subtle murderous intent flashed through Sun Li's eyes. Where is he? Take me to him. Chun Sansi answered. He went to Prefecture City to visit relatives. A few days ago, Wang Ji had ridden away on a fast horse and had not been seen since. At that time, he felt it seemed less like visiting relatives and more like fleeing. From Miss Sun's attitude, it seemed like he guessed correctly. Had Wang Ji embezzled too much, or was there another crime? If his offenses were too great, even he might not be able to help. Never mind, we'll discuss it when he returns. Sun Li took a deep breath. Let's go. Chun Sansi was confused. Go where? To your house. Sun Li smiled. I'm tired. I'd like to visit Chun Zongqi's home for some tea. Would that be unwelcome? Of course you're welcome. Follow me. Chun Sansi led the way, pondering the other party's intentions. What was this, a home visit? The Governor Mansion was indeed rigorous in selecting personnel, needing to understand every aspect of a candidate's background. Chapter 64. Commanding Soldiers Entry Level. Along the way, Sun Li kept inquiring about his origin. Chun Sansi responded to each question. You sure haven't had it easy. Sun Li's voice was like ice spring water. If you achieve something one day, I hope you won't forget your original intention. I wouldn't dare forget it for a moment. Chun Sansi sincerely said. We're here. He knocked on the door. A charming young woman with a face like a lotus appeared before them. It was naturally Sister Lan. Brother Sure. Gu Xinlan noticed the woman beside her. This must be a guest. Please come in quickly. She busied both inside and outside, brewing tea and pouring water, and even asked a neighbor to help buy some pastries from town. Throughout, she did not chatter at all about who the woman was. Chun Zongqi indeed has a beautiful and virtuous wife. While sipping green tea, Sun Li changed the subject. Before coming here, I heard that Payang County has been restless lately, first with the witch god sect causing trouble, and then with people disappearing. What do you know about this?
Witch god sect.
Chin Sansi understood. It seemed that the supervisor had sent his own daughter here, and it involved the immortal treasure. Reporting to the selection officer, recently there have been patrols in the city, but nothing has been found. In at most 2 or 3 days after he broke through to the Bone Forger realm, he planned to investigate and understand the situation in Medicine Valley. No need for formal titles like selection officer. Sun Li was strict, but her temperament was fairly straightforward. Your qualification and cultivation have no issues. Wait until next spring to return with me to Liangzhou. At the very least you can stay in the governor mansion as an inner sect disciple. We are all one family here anyway. You can just call me senior sister. So little junior brother, senior sister has nowhere else to go and plans to stay here for now. You won't drive me away, will you? Little junior brother. Having been addressed as such, it seemed he had effectively passed the initial assessment. Chun Sansi had no reason to refuse, and he called for Gu Xinlan to prepare a guest room. After all, she was the precious daughter of Lord Governor. With her remarkable cultivation, a sparring instructor who had fallen into his lap was not to be wasted. During dinner, Chun Sansi ate most of a bare heart and drank a bowl of bone-nourishing soup. While his chi blood surged through his body, he took his long spear to the courtyard and saluted by clenched fists. Senior sister Sun, please enlighten me. You really know how to get the better end of a deal, fine. Senior sister won't just eat and drink for free, Sun Li said lightly. I am at the perfection of bone training, so make your move. Bone training perfection, which was close to refining internal. Senior sister Sun, judging from her appearance, was barely 18 or 19 years old. To reach this realm within 3 to 5 years of training was absolutely outstanding. A rare opportunity. Chun Sansi's breathing pattern gradually became more complex. The dragon elephant blood within him began to boil, and he gathered strength in his arms. In the moonlight, his reed-leaf long spear shimmered with a cold light, resembling a poised venomous snake. Just come at me. Clad in red, Sun Li stood under a plum tree in the courtyard, her ponytail whipping in the night wind, and her rider's long skirt billowing. Her eyes closed, one hand on the hilt at her waist. She did not unsheath her sword until the sound of the spear cutting through the air was merely a step away from her, and then she fiercely drew her sword and struck down. Clang! The collision of sword and spear echoed like thunder, startling even the white swan horse sleeping in the corner of the yard. Under the overwhelming force, Chun Sansi was forced back several steps, his reed-leaf long spear trembling continuously, and his hand slightly numb, regaining stability only after circulating his chi blood. After all, he was a blood-refining warrior, and the person standing opposite was about to refine her internal organs, with strength second only to Xiang Tingchun. The gap was normal. Again, Chun Sansi thrust his spear repeatedly towards her. Each time, his long spear was accurately parried, sending back tremendous forces. After several exchanges, his arms and shoulders ached tremendously, and several times he almost couldn't hold the spear. But through this process, his spear technique proficiency rapidly increased. Undying Golden Snake? Sun Li recognized the spear technique. Not bad, little junior brother. Well practiced as the Undying Golden Snake, and yet neither speed nor strength has fallen behind, huh? Clang, 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 clang. The young man didn't speak nor did he stop, focusing on training the spear technique, completely treating her as a live training post. Sun Li, feeling helpless, could only continue to swing her blade, coping with the increasingly faster long spear. Her blade, designed in the style of a he-meow blade, had a slender blood-red streak in the middle of the blade. As she swung it, the blade's light flickered like a fiery red lotus blossoming in the air. Under the moonlit night, a silver snake, a lotus flower, a refreshing and thorough practice session lasting until deep into the night. Aren't you tired? Sun Li started to regret agreeing to the sparring practice. It had already been 2 hours. How could a blood-refining great success martial artist have such stamina? I can still train a bit more. Chun Sansi's movements remained sharp as ever. Another hour passed before he finally stopped. Cultivation technique. Undying golden snake spear. Upper. Uninitiated. Progress. 88 out of 100. Utility. Blood of the dragon elephant. He was getting closer. Thank you for your hard work, senior sister Sun. Chun Sansi had eaten a bit too much bear heart that evening, still feeling somewhat unsatisfied, but seeing that senior sister Sun seemed to want some rest, he did not continue and went back to his room to rest. Phew! Sun Li was far from being exhausted in terms of chi blood. After all, the gap in their levels was too large. It was just that she had been traveling all night in recent days and was very tired. Sheathing her blade, Sun Li went to the guest room, lay down on the bed, and pondered over the current situation in Payang County. Father was right. The Emperor really did send someone as well. There's news from the court. The Emperor recently had a secret meeting with the barbarian envoys. Meeting envoys at this critical moment isn't strange, but doing it stealthily certainly indicates something fishy. Is it related to the witch god sect? I wonder how Sun Buki's investigation is going. Well, let's take it slow. We are meant to be here until the spring anyway. After several days of travel, she was worn out and weary. Just as she was about to close her eyes to rest, she heard an indescribable sound coming from the main bedroom of the courtyard house. Doesn't he ever feel tired? 2 days later, Chun Sansi habitually got up early to practice with his spear. These days, Sun Li had been staying at his house, but she was out early and returned late daily, rarely encountering others, and had not found another opportunity to spar. After breakfast, Chun Sansi headed to the military camp to clock in for work. Along the way, many people greeted him. Managing over 100 people, if not a commander of 100, he was almost one, and among the households, aside from Xiang Tingchun, there was no one else who could manage him. When the new recruit assessment period ends, who knows how many military soldiers and array soldiers will emerge? Chun Sansi summoned the old scholar. Su and Kai. Gather everyone together, please. All right. About 10 minutes later, the soldiers gradually assembled, many of them still yawning. I need to find time to manage them properly. Can't let them continue to be so negligent. Chun Sansi frowned slightly. Zhu Tong. Lead them in doing pile work for an hour. Okay. Zhu Tong complied. Chun Sansi continued to practice with his spear nearby, occasionally stopping to rest. He would go up and give hands-on instructions to those whose movements were off. He had been training them this way lately. Finally, the panel fluctuated. Skill. Commanding soldiers. Entry level. Progress. 0/500. Utility. Mainstay. Mainstay. Where the commander is, all soldiers remain calm in crisis. Chapter 65 Sun Buki. Chun Sansi looked at the panel's explanation for mainstay and quickly understood the effect of the term. Calm in crisis. Such plain and unremarkable 4 words at first glance. In reality, to become a tiger and wolf troop that all armies across the land aspire to be, the first quality needed is embodied in these 4 words. Chun Sansi had come to understand this while reading military books. What use is a luxuriously equipped army if it trembles at the sight of the enemy? And the military formations, no matter how exquisitely trained the formations are in peacetime, if they cannot remain calm in crisis, they will never exhibit their true power. Most ancient armies would rout if the casualty rate exceeded 1/5. Chun Sansi had heard Su Wenkai saying that the reason the 8 camps were invincible was that they could withstand losing half their numbers without collapsing, remaining unshaken even in dire straits. Half the forces wiped out without yielding. How terrifying is that data? In the year 57 of the Longqing era, during the Battle of the Black Tortoise Camp in the southern regions, it was said they had the opportunity to retreat, but instead they chose to face the challenge, fighting to the last man. Of course, some survived, but since it was recorded this way, It indicates that at least 90% died in battle. They must have had their own faith in their hearts. That Chun Sansi could become the mainstay for the soldiers meant that he would inevitably create an elite force eventually. It was because he was easy to bully that Magistrate Ji caused him trouble. Personal strength was one aspect, and the lack of authority in his hands was another. He wouldn't need too much, even just 1,000 loyal men under his command, and who would dare to provoke him easily? After training in the morning, Chun Sansi went to the archery range to practice his archery. With martial arts as the priority, he tried to ensure he didn't neglect any skill.
Bang 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 bang.
With a 15-stone big bow, each arrow hitting the target caused a loud noise, and the grass rope targets fell one after another. Skill, archery, small achievement. Progress, 205/1000. It's worth noting that, although the proficiency hadn't advanced, his archery had not hit a dead end. Now, Chun Sansi could hit willow leaves from 150 steps away. 150 steps, nearly 200 meters of precise range, exponentially stronger than an ordinary handgun. Swoosh! A crisp eagle cry sounded overhead as 2 hawks flew over the archery range. Chun Sansi took this as a good chance to practice, and incidentally to make a bit of silver. 2 hawks could also sell for a few taels of silver. A mosquito is still meat no matter how small. The costs of practicing martial arts only grow larger over time, and he would not disdain any amount. Chun Sansi's gaze was firmly fixed on the sky, waiting for the 2 hawks to reach the right height and angle. Then he let loose a triangular armor-piercing arrow that predictably achieved a double hit with a single shot. Swoosh! Accompanied by a cry of despair, the 2 hawks fell from the sky and hit the ground.
Impossible. Absolutely impossible.
As Chun Sansi was about to retrieve his prey, he saw a young man of similar age, with an incredulous expression on his face, running over. Chun Sansi had an exceptional memory. He was certain he hadn't seen this person in the military camp. It was a stranger. Brother, how did you do that? The young man was also holding a bow and arrow, imitating the action of drawing a bow. Those 2 hawks just now were at least 40 zhang off the ground. How did you manage that? Chun Sansi felt it was all very bewildering. Manage what exactly? I mean, how did you shoot so accurately? The young man was excited. How heavy is your big bow? 10 stone or 15 stone? May I borrow it for 1 shot? Sorry, I'm a bit busy, Chun Sansi replied honestly. He had countless things on his plate to grind, and many other tasks to handle. If he had free time, he wouldn't mind chatting a bit more. 100 taels. The young man suddenly made an offer, his tone sincere. Brother, if you agree to be my archery mentor, I'm willing to pay 200 taels of silver every month. How much? Chun Sansi doubted what he heard. You think it's too little? 200 taels. I can't offer more. I'm in a rush this trip and truly short on money, the young man explained. 200 taels, short on money? Chun Sansi scrutinized the young man. The other party had quite a few valuable accessories on him, including a belt, a jade pendant, and the bow and arrow he held, which were intricately carved from top-quality materials. Where did this young master come from? Who cares where the young master came from? Even if it's the son of Magistrate Ji, you don't turn down free silver. Agreed. Chun Sansi accepted the offer. Come to the martial arts arena tomorrow, and I will teach you. The young man was delighted. All right, master. No need to call me master. Chun Sansi was speechless. Such casualness was too much. He waved his hand and took his leave. A mere Payong 1,000 households, and yet it has such a fierce commander. Sun Buki's mind kept replaying the scene. A big bow of more than 10 stones, shooting birds from a distance of 150 steps. Bone-training martial artist, wouldn't it be 1 arrow, 1 kill? 200 taels of silver to learn the skill was an absolute bargain. No need to practice spears anymore. 150 steps. Sun Buki raised his bow and arrow, trying to imitate. On the target range, there wasn't even a target at 150 steps. The farthest was at 120 steps, and he could barely make out the bullseye. A rare talent. Truly a rare talent. As he was feeling astounded, someone suddenly struck him hard on the back of his head. Sun Buki. Sun Li, holding a scabbard, said, "What are you doing here? Have you finished investigating what I asked you to? Sister, can you not always hit me on the head?" Sun Buki said gravely, "Don't worry, I finished it all. Firstly, the person is Chun Sansi. His family background is clean, and there's no falsifying about his military enlistment time. He's truly been training close to bone level in just over 2 months. He played a critical role in the Song family massacre case. Seems like it started because people from Tai Lei Martial Arts Academy bullied his former fellow villagers, and he couldn't stand it, killing a group of academy disciples in the street. His courage is astonishing, and as a person, he does not forget his roots. Even after becoming an official, he's willing to help his old friends. Dad would definitely like a person like that." Sun Li agreed with this judgment. After several days of interaction, the little junior brother was quite good. Diligent in martial arts practice, and a decent person. The only minor flaw was that he was a bit too spirited, causing trouble every night. But being young, that was somewhat excusable. Only then did the investigation into Chun Sansi as a selected point finally come to a complete conclusion. Sun Li then asked, "What about the witch god sect? Couldn't find them inside or outside the city?" Sun Buki stroked his chin. "Could they have already fled back to the grassland? If you can't find them in the city or outside, then search the mountains." Sun Li quickly made a judgment. If they are not found in the mountains, then search the homes of the officials, the houses of the martial arts halls, including Xiang Tingchun. "That's not necessary, is it?" Sun Buki said tentatively with some apprehension. "The more I find out, the more bizarre it seems. Did Dad send us here because we, as bone training martial artists, are not enough? Now you're complaining about your realm being too low? Why didn't you train earlier?" Sun Li's expression was solemn. "Dad made these arrangements for a reason. We just follow his lead. This afternoon I'll go up the mountain with you. Sister, I don't need to train anymore." Sun Buki's eyes shone with confidence as he said, "I've just taken on a rare talent as my master. If I can master his teachings, with a mere flick of my fingers, I could take the life of a bone training martial artist." Sister, don't walk away. I'm serious. It's only 200 taels for a month. Medical Officer Jiang, prepare 2 servings of bone-nourishing soup for me. Outside the pharmacy, Chun Sansi said, "And also prepare a medicine bath for me. The medicine bath, that costs 100 taels. Medical Officer Jiang teased. "You're splashing out so much. Did you bump into an exotic beast or something?" "No such thing. Just ran into a rich young master." Chun Sansi chatted while taking out 50 taels of silver. Once he drank this bowl of bone-nourishing soup, he should break through. Chapter 66 9 Dragon Living Veins. Bone Training Realm. From entry-level to great success, it is known as the training of muscles, bones, skin, and marrow. But in reality, with each breakthrough, the strength of the bones increases as part of a lengthy, holistic process, not achieved overnight. Just as after blood refining great success, the chi blood is set in place. After bone forging great success, the bones will also be set in place. Muscle training is the first step. Bone-nourishing soup enters the stomach. The medicinal strength, carried throughout the body by the blood of the dragon elephant, causes an intolerable itching in the bones and meridians. When combined with the pain of breathing skill and pile work, it forms an indescribable torment. Chun Sansi sheds his upper garment and exhibits his solid muscles, closing his eyes in the crisp autumn wind as he practices the most intricate moves of the undying golden snake spear technique. On the surface, his postures appear bizarre and twisted, yet each movement is firmly executed. It is only with the extremely difficult moves in coordination with complex pile work, coupled with the breathing skill, that one can refine the bones and meridians to their limits. Chun Sansi is experienced and unhurried, leaving everything to time. Sun Li happens to return, and seeing this, she stands by the wall and instructs, "Junior brother, slow the circulation of your chi blood. Focus on feeling the interaction of muscles and bones. The tougher the meridians you train, the better for bone strengthening. Never mind, I'll help you. Chun Sansi, focused on swinging the reed-leaf-long spear, doesn't respond to the woman's words. He only hears light footsteps approaching him. Subsequently, Chun Sansi feels a pair of cool jade hands tapping on his joints and meridians, obviously guiding the order of muscle training. He concentrates on understanding it. Until a certain moment, meridians within Chun Sansi's body came alive. The meridians of a martial artist include large and small tendons, as well as the bone membrane covering the surface of the bones. At this moment, his entire body's meridians seem to have life of their own, with large meridians like dragons and small ones like serpents, twining around his joints, muscles, and the bone membrane on the surface of his bones, continuously drawing upon the blood of the dragon elephant to temper his bones. Cultivation technique. Undying golden snake spear. Level, entry-level. Progress, 0/500. Utility. The blood of the dragon elephant. 9 dragon living veins. 9 dragon living veins. Meridians as stout and resilient as serpents and dragons. Only the finest meridians can nourish the highest quality bones. 9 dragon living veins? Chun Sansi circulates his chi blood, and veins bulge all over his body, particularly visible on his arms, neck, and temples, resembling azure dragons coiling around, making him look quite daunting from afar. These meridians not only bring formidable strength but also greatly increase the toughness of the bones. Unless one is a martial artist, ordinary people wielding kitchen knives would be unable to cut through his bones. Your meridians. Sun Li, somewhat unsure, grasps his solid arms and carefully feels the throbbing of the meridians. 9 dragon's bone? Junior brother is actually a 9 dragon body? No wonder. No wonder your martial arts practice advances so swiftly. 9 dragon body? Chun Sansi doesn't dodge. He understands that upon becoming a disciple, sooner or later his bones would have to be examined to assess his qualification. Especially something like meridians, which absolutely cannot be hidden. Luckily, according to present trends, as his realm improves, his status will continually enhance his physique until he genuinely becomes a special martial body, without fear of scrutiny. He takes the opportunity to learn more. Please enlighten me, senior sister. What is so unique about the 9 dragon body? Many things. Sun Li explains, similar to tiger evil body, golden python body, and others, can be seen from childhood, while the 9 dragon body is displayed step by step with the improvement of one's realm. For example, ordinary martial artists, after reaching bone forging perfection, have tough oxhide and bones that can effectively resist fatal injuries. But martial artists with special physiques, upon reaching bone forging perfection, will have shen skin and abnormal bone. The so-called shen skin, after being filled with chi blood, becomes as tough as the shell of a mystical turtle. Abnormal bone means the bones have undergone a transformation and are harder than stone. In actual combat, it's very difficult for them to be killed in a short period. Upon reaching bone forging perfection, the 9 dragon body will also reach the level of shen skin and abnormal bone. Each physique has its own special traits. For example, the 9 dragon body's biggest characteristic is its constant growth, gaining an advantage at every realm. When reaching the blood refining realm, one can cultivate 9 dragon blood, and upon reaching bone training, one can cultivate 9 dragon living veins. 9 dragon blood? Chun Sansi picks up on the key term in the conversation. Of course, the 9 dragon body cultivates the 9 dragon blood. Sun Li states matter-of-factly, no wonder junior brother's chi blood is so enduring and inexhaustible. No, that's not right. Chun Sansi's chi blood isn't the 9 dragon blood. It's the dragon elephant blood. Could it be that the breakthrough brought about by the panel changes isn't just one kind of constitution? This, however, is no longer something I can ask about. Congratulations, junior brother. Sun Li congratulated. With the breakthrough into the bone training realm, I fear you might bring us more surprises before we return to Liangzhou. Thanks to senior sister Sun's guidance. Chun Sansi expressed his gratitude. Reaching the bone training realm would mean promotion to the rank of 100 households, rightfully managing over 100 people. Moreover, there were ranks within the 100 households. 6th rank military officer. Looking at the rank alone, it was even higher than that of a 7th rank magistrate. With the identity of an imperial official, nobody would dare to touch him without concrete evidence. Chun Sansi immediately went to the barracks to report his breakthrough. Xiang Tingchun was very straightforward, promptly writing a petition to the court's relevant department, promoting him to the rank of 100 households. When he came out, he saw the figure of Magistrate Ji Guangxian again. This guy was sitting in a carriage outside the barracks, heading towards the direction of the county town. The person responsible for driving the carriage was a disciple of the Tianyuan Martial Arts Academy. Since Ji Guangxian's arrival in Poyang, he had been staying in the large residence prepared for him by the martial arts hall. It must be assumed that during this period, several martial arts halls had not stopped fanning the flames, encouraging Ji to make a move against him. Start with Medicine Valley. Now that Chun Sansi had achieved bone forging and possessed the 15-stone Big Bow, exploring Medicine Valley was definitely within reach. Tonight, he must clear up the situation inside. He didn't expose the situation earlier because he knew that Xiang Tingchun was very likely to cover it up now. As for Sun Li, they had just met not long ago. Mutual trust was insufficient. Rashly revealing the news might lead her to suspect him if she failed to find the immortal treasure in Medicine Valley. Better to take a look first. If he really couldn't handle it alone, then he would come up with another plan. There was another problem. Going out during the day, I'm bound to be spotted. If it's at night, Sun Li is staying at my house. I have to make her think I've never left. Chun Sansi pondered and quickly came up with a plan. That night, in the bedroom. Sister Lan, I need you to go to some trouble for me tonight. What kind of trouble? You'll know soon. In the guest room, Sun Li, holding her long spear, lay on the bed, listening to the noises coming from the main bedroom. It's getting more and more excessive. Even if young, one shouldn't be so indulgent. After all, I am a woman. It's not something I can speak about. If I had known, I wouldn't have stayed here. It continued making noise until midnight, finally quieting down. Sun Li waited another half hour. After confirming that her junior brother and his wife were asleep, she quietly got up, scaled the wall, and left the estate. Chapter 67. Spiritual Grain. Chun Sansi, his face covered, carried a long spear and bow on his back as he sped like lightning to the second-layer mountain as fast as possible. The night was pitch black and windy, the bright moon no longer visible. He concealed himself in a deep mountain valley, where the only sounds were the rustling of nocturnal animals, with no other disturbances. Only from the direction of Medicine Valley shone a faint orange-yellow firelight. At the entrance, quite a few martial arts academy disciples guarded the gate. It would be strange if there were no ghosts inside. Chun Sansi slipped into the dense forest nearby, with tracking and hiding at his side, even in the pitch-dark environment where he couldn't see his hand in front of his face. He could easily perceive any movement around him and quickly found a rugged path that would allow him to approach Medicine Valley unnoticed. He arrived at a large tree above the side of Medicine Valley. Chun Sansi quietly observed the layout within Medicine Valley. It was indeed a medicinal garden, not a disguise, with numerous medicinal herbs planted both inside and out. I'll pack and take them later. I should have brought a sack with me. It's all silver, ah. He looked on with envy. Even though he had recently been drained of silver by Xiang Tingchun, the martial arts hall was still rich enough. First, the main business. Chun Sansi carefully counted. There were about 7 or 8 disciples guarding the various entrances of Medicine Valley. Luckily, they were rather scattered, not difficult to deal with. He casually reached for and accurately picked out the time needle arrow from the many types of arrows at his waist. This kind of arrow, true to its name, had a flat head and a narrow, long blade with strong piercing power, and it was not noisy, killing people silently. Staying up late and working overtime at such a late hour is also a hard life. Have a good rest. Swoosh! Swoosh! In less than half a minute, all 8 martial arts academy disciples had fallen asleep, without making a sound. Chun Sansi was then able to enter Medicine Valley smoothly. In the depths of the valley, he found the source of the firelight. In these deep mountains and old forests, there was actually a mansion. From the details of the exterior, it appeared to have been built not long ago. Ah! Before Chun Sansi had even gotten close, he could already hear a feeble wail coming from inside. Inside the mansion, what should have been used as a hall, there was no furniture, just a candelabra flickering dim candlelight. In the corner, there was a white-haired pharmacist pushing a medicine mill, occasionally adding some materials to it, producing a rhythmic grating sound. Beside him, apart from herbs, lay a bundle of fresh spiritual grain. Liang Zhan was nearby, sword in hand, training ardently. The sword shadows flickered, dazzling to the eyes. Whoosh! Only after he was drenched in sweat and exhausted did he stop. At the same time, a man bound tight was dragged out by the old servant from the next room. The bound man was dressed in coarse hemp clothes, seemingly robust, but now extremely weak and pale, with black and purple veins on his neck that resembled crawling earthworms. He uncontrollably convulsed, emitting painful moans from his mouth and continuously vomiting black blood. What are they doing? On the roof, having finally infiltrated the place, Chun Sansi lifted the tiles and saw this scene right before his eyes. The man seemed to have been poisoned. Why would the martial arts hall capture someone and poison them to test medicine? His gaze swept across the room. Beside the medicine mill were spiritual grain. Chun Sansi's pupils suddenly dilated. Outside the military camp lay vast expanses of farmland. How could he not recognize this thing? The year was the 21st year of Longqing. The old emperor claimed to have dreamt of an immortal bestowing treasures upon him. Upon waking, he ordered that 1/10 of the nation's arable land be used to cultivate this herb. But this item, called immortal herbs, was actually poison grass. Anyone who consumed it would die instantly, beyond saving. The symptoms were similar to those of the man before him, with veins turning black and blood flowing from every orifice. Was the martial arts hall capturing live people to feed them spiritual grain? What was the purpose? Chun Sansi held his breath and continued to secretly watch. A few minutes went by, and sure enough, the man started to bleed from every orifice and finally breathed his last. The old servant of the Liang family had been waiting for a long time. He took out a dagger and went up to gut the corpse. His hands, like dried branches, tore through the flesh and extracted a pitch-black medicine pill, handing it to an old man who had been milling medicine in the corner. The toxicity has been removed. The young master can eat it now. Pharmacist Li, after checking, presented it with both hands. Liang Zhan took the blood-stained, still warm medicine pill and swallowed it without any hesitation. Hiss! The moment he swallowed the medicine, he gasped in pain and quickly started his pile work combined with breathing skill, barely managing to suppress the anomaly inside his body. Genius! Feeling the strong effects of the medicine, Liang Zhan couldn't stop praising. Pan Quan is truly a genius. How did he think of using live people to filter out the toxins? We only need 10 people to remove more than 90% of the toxins. The effects of one medicine pill are worth 100 silvers worth of medicinal materials. This is still just a crude method. To really bring out the effects of spiritual grain, we must use an immortal treasure. Unfortunately, Xiang Tingchun is too overbearing, and to this day, we still do not know what the immortal treasure is. Yes, the old servant sighed. Lately, Payong has been fraught with trouble, and even the flesh and blood of Supervisor Sun has arrived, seemingly investigating this matter. The various martial arts halls dare not continue capturing people en masse. This one was the last we had. There are no more. I'm still not talented enough. Liang Zhan lamented. Even with the spiritual grain, I'm currently only proficient in the bone strengthening skill, far from small achievement. I really envy that Chen guy. He achieved great success in blood refining after just 2 months of martial arts training. Speaking of which, old Sung's subordinate offended him, and ended up in such a plight. Back then, Qin Feng wanted his life. How could he spare me in the future? The more he thought, the more terrified he felt. We need to press Magistrate Ji. We must eliminate him before he progresses in bone training, or at the very least, drive him out of Payang County. Bang! Just as his words ended, a bone-crushing sound exploded by his ear. Suddenly, a pitch-black thunderbolt struck, hitting the bone-training realm-old servant on the head, blowing open his skull with a complete penetration. Uncle Wu! Before Liang Zhan could react, another black thunderbolt struck down. This time it was coming towards him. Bang! Liang Zhan's bones could not resist at all and were pierced by the terrifying thunderbolt through his shoulder, nailing him directly to the wall behind him. The pharmacist was not spared either. His thigh was smashed by the black thunderbolt, and he fell to the ground, screaming in agony. Everything happened too suddenly, taking only 2 to 3 seconds. It was only then that Liang Zhan realized what had happened. There was no such thing as a black thunderbolt. What was embedded in him was clearly an armor-piercing arrow. What kind of bow and arrow could possess such terrifying power? He was a bone-training martial artist. Boom! Another loud noise came from above, and the roof tiles turned into fragments, falling down in large pieces, collapsing a clear, large hole in the roof. A figure descended from the sky, holding a bow and arrow, with a long spear on his back. Very well. You really are trying to harm me, Chen Sansi shouted coldly. Chapter 68. The beginning of everything. Is it you? Upon recognizing the person, Liang Zhan's heart trembled. Around the Medicine Valley, 8 direct disciples stood guard. He could not imagine how the person managed to infiltrate without a sound. Somebo di come. As Liang Zhan shouted, he raised his long sword in an attempt to strike back. Bang! He had just lifted his arm when another black thunderbolt struck, piercing through his wrist and nailing it to the wall. His long sword clanged to the ground, and he lost any ability to resist. Brother Chen. Liang Zhan squeezed out a smile at the masked figure before him, but it appeared twisted due to the intense pain. Brother Chen, there is no need for such drastic measures, right? Less nonsense. Chen Sansi tore off his mask. In fact, his weapon was so conspicuous that being masked or not made little difference. The only safe method was to tie up loose ends cleanly. He shot another arrow at Liang Zhan's left hand and said, "Next, whatever I ask, you answer." The situation was overly complicated. Just by eavesdropping on bits and pieces, he couldn't ascertain the whole picture. It was best to keep a live witness to interrogate first. Ah! Liang Zhan shook physically from the pain and pleaded continuously, "Brother Chan, ask me anything you want. I'll tell you everything I know without holding back." Good. Chan Sansi asked, "Is the immortal treasure in Xiang Tingchuan's hands? And is he using it to coerce you into donating military supplies to the households?" How did you know? Liang Zhan was so severely injured that his forehead was covered in cold sweat. What you said is correct. Chan Sansi asked, "What exactly is the immortal treasure?" With intermittent difficulty, Liang Zhan said, I don't know." Bang! In an instant, another arrow struck, pinning his right leg as well. Ah! Liang Zhan nearly passed out from the pain. "Brother Chun, spare my life. I'm not lying. We have been searching all along, and we only know that this thing can definitely extract the essence of spiritual grain. Start from the beginning." Chen Sansi issued his final ultimatum. It was the barbarian Tuoba tribe. With gritted teeth, Liang Zhan continued through his pain. 2 months ago, as the other party detailed his account, Chen Sansi finally began to roughly understand the ins and outs of the matter. 2 months ago. At that time, he had just crossed over and was still worried about Qin Xiong's affairs. Meanwhile, on the distant grasslands, a royal succession struggle took place in the barbarian Tuoba tribe. The third prince of the Tuoba tribe failed in his coup and, after faking his death, fled to the border of the Great Shang dynasty. Before he left, he stole the Tuoba tribe's treasure, naturally the immortal treasure, hoping to offer it to the emperor, dashing to convince the great Shang dynasty to send troops to help him reclaim the throne. After arriving at Pyong, fearing pursuit, the Tuoba prince sought out the local magistrate, hoping he could notify the prefecture city to find a martial expert from the city to escort him straight to the capital city. Old Zhang, who was the magistrate at the time, had spent half his life in the bureaucratic world. He knew all too well one thing. If the higher-ups in the prefecture city got involved, where would there be a share of credit for him? Therefore, he sought help from the 4 great martial arts schools, planning to monopolize this meritorious deed. But a bloodied mess ensued. Yunhe Master, after overhearing the conversation between the magistrate and the prince, got greedy. Since no one knew about the prince being in Pyong, couldn't they just kill him and seize the treasure? In the future, with the help of the immortal treasure, they could grow stronger and step out of Pyong to become a first-class sect in the Jianghu. So, under the grand vision, the 4 great martial arts schools joined forces to act, first poisoning, then launching a surprise attack, intending to kill the magistrate and Emperor Tuoba together. However, the prince was not one to be trifled with, and, under such circumstances, he forcefully took the key and escaped. The 4 great martial arts schools were only left with a box they could not open. And not long after, the prince stealthily returned, killed Yunhe Master, and reclaimed the jade box. The matter blew up. Seeing that they could no longer keep it a secret, the 4 great martial arts schools sought help from Xiang Tingchun, hoping he would take action and promising that once they obtained the immortal treasure, they would share it together. As for what happened next, Chun Sansi became involved. During the pursuit of Emperor Tuoba, the witch god sect intervened rashly. This led to the prince being seriously wounded and escaping, only to die outside the city. As a result, the treasure was picked up by him. What a thrilling treasure hunt. Spiritual grain. Chun Sansi pressed for answers relentlessly. What is spiritual grain used for? Cough, cough, cough. Liang Zhan, his mouth filled with blood, insisted. The prince didn't reveal much. We only know that with the immortal treasure, one can refine treasure medicine that aids in cultivation. Among them, spiritual grain is one of the most important raw materials. Exactly how it is used, we are not clear. That's why we captured people for experimentation. Pan Quan developed a special kind of medicine pills, grinding spiritual grain into powder and adding it to them. Once ingested, a person begins to absorb the spiritual grain. Roughly 10 people are needed to completely purge the toxin from the spiritual grain. Unfortunately, this process also wastes most of the essence of the spiritual grain, resulting in medicine pills that are only moderately effective, offering significant help only to bone-training martial artists. Chun Sansi glanced at the local man dying in agony and understood what was happening. His face showed no expression. You're using living people as filters? They're just lowly peasants, what does it matter? Liang Zhan spoke naturally. Even a locally concocted medicine can have such good effects. If we get the immortal treasure and give it some time, not to mention refining internal, even reaching Huajin is not far-fetched. Otherwise, why would we willingly be stepping stones for Xiang Tingchuan's promotion? It's all for the immortal treasure. Brother Chun, let's cooperate. As long as you don't kill me, we'll pretend today's events never happened. Not just that, my Liang family will provide you with all the resources you need. With your qualifications, refining internal is only a matter of time. Once you achieve refining internal, we can join forces to kill Xiang Tingchun, seize the immortal treasure, and ascend to the pinnacle of martial arts. You still want to kill Commander Household Xiang? Chun Sansi deliberately frightened him. Guess who sent me here? Liang Zhan became somewhat confused, quickly correcting himself. No, Brother Chun, you misunderstand. You cannot kill me. As long as you don't kill me, I can give you anything, money, medicinal materials. His gaze shifted outside. The medicine garden. Do you see this garden of medicinal herbs? Spare my life, and everything here is yours. Fool, if you're dead, everything will still be mine, Chun Sansi stated. This rendered Liang Zhan completely silent. He could not utter a word for a long while. Chun Sansi pointed to the body on the ground used for testing the medicine. Just now, you said he was what? A lowly peasant from the countryside. Liang Zhan answered as a matter of course. His voice grew lower, making one last effort to survive. Brother Chun, are we really unable to cooperate? Xiang Ting Chun won't treat you as one of his own. For him, as long as he can climb the ranks, he will discard anyone. Isn't it good to continue capturing people for alchemy to improve our cultivation? Brother Liang, have you forgotten something? Chun Sansi looked at his panicked eyes and said solemnly, I too come from the countryside. Whoosh! An arrow from a chime crossbow directly pierced through Liang Zhan's forehead, ending his life. Chun Sansi turned his gaze to the corner, where the pharmacist lay bleeding on the ground, barely alive. Do you have a sack here? Chapter 69, Murder and Arson. Boom! In the dark night, a blaze shot up into the sky. Chun Sansi swiftly left, carrying a sack. This time he had truly struck it rich. Before leaving, he had not only packed up everything he could carry but also obtained several medical books from the pharmacist, and then he murdered to silence them. All in all, he did not even know how much it was all worth. Moreover, since there were too many bodies to dispose of conveniently, Chun Sansi, worried that someone might recognize the arrow wound, simply gathered them in the courtyard and burned them all together. With this commotion, the martial arts hall surely wouldn't dare to capture live people for testing medicines anymore, which could be considered a good deed. Chun Sansi recalled the recent events in his mind. Spiritual grain could actually enhance cultivation? Could it be the old emperor had really met an immortal? Was he truly cultivating towards immortality? How to use the immortal treasure. Use a special flame and then simmer the spiritual grain. Chun Sansi speculated about various things. Either way, lamp oil plus spiritual grain equaled a treasure medicine that enhanced cultivation. Following this lead was definitely right. With that, the matter came to a close. With Xiang Tingchun willingly taking the blame, no one would suspect him. Next, he had plenty of time to study it slowly. Chun Sansi, with 3 or 4 sacks on his back, hurriedly left Tiger Head Mountain. Taking all these things back was not practical. He first hid them in an old house in Yanbian village. Then he took a detour back to the military settlement of the households. Senior Sister Sun is not here? Chun Sansi keenly sensed something was amiss. The guest room was empty. He hurried to his own bedroom, and only after picking up a strand of hair from both the door gap and the window did he finally breathe a sigh of relief. Before setting out, he had the foresight to pluck a few hairs from Sister Lan as a marker. It seemed he was overthinking. Sun Li had no intentions of monitoring him. But where was she going in the middle of the night? The chances were good that she'd discovered a clue about Medicine Valley. Good thing I made my move first. Sister, it looks like someone has already been here. Sun Buki stood on the wall, looking at the raging fire in the courtyard and made a calm analysis. Is that even necessary to say? Sun Li looked at the pit dug by the perpetrator to burn the bodies. This guy was even worried about causing a wildfire. What a good person indeed. Sun Buki exclaimed feelingly. Recently, Sun Li and Sun Buki, one openly and one secretly, had barely noticed that disciples from the martial arts academy frequently left the city to go up the mountain, so they thought to come and check tonight. Upon discovering a fire nearby, they arrived only to witness this scene. Fire! Put out the fire! The other night watchmen from nearby medicine gardens noticed the abnormality, shouting as they led men rushing over. Let's go back. Sun Li sighed deeply. We'll check the other medicine gardens another day. The next day, as soon as Chun Sansi arrived at the military camp, he heard many people discussing the incident. Did you hear? Last night, fire broke out on Second Layer Mountain. This morning, during the city patrol, I personally saw several charred bodies carried back from the mountain. It seems like young masters from the Tianyuan Martial Arts Academy were all burned to death. Why would there suddenly be a wildfire? Clearly, someone did it on purpose. Who would dare to do such a thing? After eavesdropping for a while, Chun Sansi headed to the martial arts arena, gathering his subordinates for routine exercises. Several among them, as before, were lazily skimping during the pile work practice. "Are you Zhao Jin from Li Zhuang?" Chun Sansi approached and spoke in an even tone. "Yes. Does the flag leader know me?" The man asked, surprised. "Recognized." Chun Sansi asked, "How goes the training?" "It's okay. Just too exhausting." The man said with a joking smile, "It's much more tiring than farming." "Then you should go back to farming." Chun Sansi suddenly said, "Suwen Kai, take him to collect the rations from these past few days." "Sir." The sudden expulsion baffled not just the man, but everyone present. "That's good. I have something to say to you." Chun Sansi knew he could no longer indulge them. He gathered his energy and spoke loudly. "I know you came to join the army because you, like me, were both raised outside the city in the countryside, and you think I would look after you. Yes, I will indeed look after you. Here, I can't guarantee other things. I, Chun Sansi, will definitely not embezzle a single grain of your food or a copper coin, and those with talent, I will also try my best to pass on martial arts. But I hope you understand that this is the military, not an acting troupe, and soon, some of you will die. I mean, really die. If you don't train properly now, when you go to battle later, you will not only kill yourselves, but also get other brothers killed. So, I'm giving you the ugly truth up front. From today, whoever dares to be lazy and perfunctory will just go home and farm like Zhao Jin. I do not allow such a scourge to exist under my command. Do you understand?" When he had finished speaking, the martial arts arena was utterly silent. Those who had slacked off earlier all showed embarrassed expressions. "Understood." Took a long while, but they finally responded in unison. Despite actually holding some admiration for the young man before them, they were still not accustomed to martial arts training. Joining the army was something their fellow villagers had discussed and decided together. If anyone were to be driven away, it would be a great embarrassment. Chun Sansi sighed inwardly. He knew he had to set an example. Otherwise, there would always be people who took advantage of his approachability and brazenly broke the rules. Like Zhao Jin, who from the very first day of enlistment didn't train properly and often encouraged others to sneak out of camp to rest at home. What use was there in keeping such a person? "Continue." At Chun Sansi's command, the soldiers hurriedly resumed their pile work, each gritting their teeth and persevering, none daring to slack off again. Just then, the young master who had visited the day before came this way. Right on time. Tianyuan Martial Arts Academy. In the courtyard full of greenery, many burnt corpses were laid out, all black and hardened, resembling matchsticks and barely recognizable as human. Which one is Zhaner? Master Liang Shengji's eyes were bloodshot, his emotions on the verge of collapse. Who had the audacity? He had 4 children, but only 1 son, and now met with a death leaving not even an intact body. The other 2 headmasters were also present. It seems our affairs have been exposed. Pan Quan was frantic. But what's strange is, why has no one come for us? Whoever came across the event on the mountain should not be this calm. Lately, many had been investigating. My son, Liang Shengji, overwhelmed with grief, looked closely at the corpses, trying to figure out which one was his son, not in the mood to listen to him. Pan Quan turned to the side. Uncle Zhao, who do you think is behind this? If I remember correctly, Brother Liang's son and that old servant were both in the bone training realm, right? Master Zhao, who had been silent all along, finally spoke slowly. Plus, 7 or 8 true disciples guarded the medicine garden, yet none survived to escape back here. It indicates the attacker was of an exceptional realm, treating bone training martial artists as if slaughtering chickens and dogs. Looking over Piyang County, who do you think could accomplish this? Xiang Tingchun. Pan Quan suddenly realized. He must have noticed something, penetrated Medicine Valley to spy on the secrets, planning to monopolize the secret of the immortal treasure. That's right. Exactly. Master Zhao affirmed. Otherwise, if our affairs were exposed, why would there be no questions directed at us? If it was Xiang Tingchun, it makes sense. With the immortal treasure in his hands, why would he want the issue revealed? That Xiang is truly malicious, Pan Quan cursed angrily. Not content with destroying the Song family, now relying on his refining internal realm, and having our weaknesses, preparing to slowly devour us and completely consume our houses. Xiang Tingchun, Liang Shangji roared. You and I shall never coexist. Even as a ghost, I will ensure we perish together. Chapter 70. Lamp oil and spiritual grain. Keep your body straight. Yes, just like that. On the archery range, Chen Sansi carefully instructed Sun Buki. This young master was not only generous but also paid in advance. 200 silver taels in a note, it was his first time seeing such. Shoo! Sun Buki aimed and shot an arrow at a target 100 steps away. He probably scored around the 4th ring. Unsatisfied, he shot another arrow, scoring in the 2nd ring. Chen Sansi had taught everything he could. Yet the young master hadn't improved at all after 2 hours. His posture was correct, but he couldn't hit the target precisely. Master! Sun Buki insisted on calling him this. Unstoppable. How exactly do you do it? Archery and martial arts aren't closely related. The level of martial arts realm could at most determine how heavy a bowstring one could pull. But the heavier the bow, the harder it is to control. 100-step piercing. How easy could it be? Yet the extraordinary man before him did more than just 100-step piercing. Most terrifying was his accuracy, never once missing the mark. How do you do it? Chen Sansi thought for a moment and concluded, mostly it's through effort. Heaven rewards the diligent, I guess. What a heaven rewards the diligent. Sun Buki grasped the true essence of it and was full of confidence about the future. Compared to martial arts, he was more obsessed with archery. Even at a high martial arts realm, one still has to fight closely for life. But with archery, one could take a life from 100 steps away. He practiced martial arts only to be able to pull the bowstring of a heavy bow. Sun Buki was full of motivation, continually pulling the bow and shooting arrows. What is your honored surname? Chen Sansi asked. The other was eager to learn, only now giving him the chance to inquire. Sun Buki focused on his archery training. Without turning his head back, Sun Buki. Sun. Chen Sansi hadn't heard of a wealthy young master surnamed Sun in Piyang County. He couldn't help but think of the red-clothed woman. Do you know Sun Li? Ido. Sun Buki naturally replied. She's my older sister. Before Chen Sansi could react, a familiar voice rang out. Sun Buki. Sun Li appeared in her red attire, her voice filled with anger. Sister, I'm in the middle of something serious here. Sun Buki quickly dodged. This is my archery master who can pierce Yang from 150 steps. An extraordinary man. Question mark. Sun Li paused. What did you call him? Master. Sun Buki spread his hands. Is there a problem? Little junior brother. Sun Li gently held her forehead. What's going on here? Do not blame my junior sister. I didn't know he was a senior brother. Chen Sansi was somewhat embarrassed. But calling him master was just for fun, not to be taken seriously. Are you Chen Sansi? Sun Buki first shocked, then excitedly said, Extraordinary! Not only a 9-dragon body but also a masterful archer. From now on I'll call you master, you call me senior brother, and we each discuss our own. My brother has some issues with his brain. Sun Li was about to burst out, but then let it go. Father named him Buki, which originally meant gentlemen are versatile. However, it turned out to be something incompetent. Senior sister, you speak too harshly, Chen Sansi said. Brother Buki and I are of similar age, yet his realm is higher than mine. There must be something exceptional about him. Can 2 months of martial arts practice compare to 3 years? Sun Li took Sun Buki away. Junior brother, we still have matters to attend to. We must take our leave now. Are they still investigating? Chun Sansi really hadn't expected even the young master of the Sun family to come. He had particularly inquired recently. Sun Dusher originally had 5 children, but the first 3 all died in battle. Among them, the third child, who had the best talent for martial arts, died in the battle at Xuanwu camp. Now only a son and a daughter remain. They are Sun Buki and Sun Li. It's truly heartbreaking that the supervisor sent his only remaining children here. After all, they were just undergoing bone training, and accidents could still happen. Boom! The sky erupted with a clap of thunder and it started pouring heavily. Chun Sansi braved the rain to go to the pharmacy and carried away 2 clay jars. Inside were the medicine baths he had pre-ordered. Just these 2 jars for 1 bath cost 50 silver taels. If it weren't for Sun Buki being generous, he really wouldn't have been able to afford it. He poured the medicinal soup from the clay jars into the wooden tub, then added cold water to mix the black medicine bath. Chun Sansi stripped off his clothes and jumped in. Hiss! Although the medicinal soup and water were cold, the moment they touched his skin, it felt as hot as boiling water and as irritating as chilly water, painfully stinging every inch of his skin. The potent medicinal strength penetrated his pores and entered his flesh, tempering his bones. Ah! Following the doctor's instructions, Chun Sansi sat cross-legged in the wooden tub, using the Howren breathing skill. Even so, he couldn't last more than 5 minutes before jumping out. His skin was red, and his whole body swelled up. He grabbed the reed leaf spear and rushed to the yard to practice his spear technique, using the chi blood to absorb the medicinal strength. Only then did the painful sensation start to subside. It wasn't until it completely vanished that he jumped back into the wooden tub. He repeated this process over and over until the effects of the medicine bath were exhausted. The pain was real, but the help it provided for his cultivation was immense. He took a medicine bath every 3 days. The silver in Chun Sansi's house was quickly spent almost entirely. Luckily, there was significant progress in his cultivation. Cultivation technique. Undying golden snake spear. Entry level. Progress. 58 to 500. Utility. Blood of the dragon elephant. 9 dragon living veins. The pace is slowing down. Even though Chun Sansi was aware that this speed of improvement was far beyond that of ordinary people, he was still somewhat dissatisfied. After all, war was imminent, and no one would complain about having too high a cultivation level. It's almost time. As time went on, the Medicine Valley incident gradually settled. Observing for several days, Chun Sansi confirmed that nobody had noticed him. Just as he was running out of silver at home, it was the right time to figure out how to use the immortal treasure and make use of the other spoils of war as well. After lunch, Chun Sansi quietly slipped into Yanbian village, swinging around the small woodland and jumping over the wall into the yard, taking out the hidden items. Herb materials, spiritual grain, medicine mill, medicine jars, medical books. Basically, everything he could carry with him at the time, Chun Sansi stuffed into a burlap sack. Immortal treasure. Spiritual grain. According to his reasoning, the flame from the immortal treasure could likely eliminate the toxins of the spiritual grain and preserve its essence. But would a medicine jar or iron pot withstand the high temperatures of the flame produced by the immortal treasure? Chun Sansi placed the spiritual grain in the pot, adding water. He then stuffed the stove's base with firewood and smeared a small amount of lamp oil on the firewood. He used a fire stick to light it. Boom! Red flames rose, and the temperature in the room soared as if it had instantly switched from late autumn to severe summer. The cold water in the iron pot immediately boiled. Crackle! However, the iron pot was quickly burnt through, and the liquid evaporated completely. The room was suddenly filled with steam until the firewood was quickly consumed and the flames died down. Just as Chun Sansi had guessed, an ordinary iron pot simply couldn't withstand the temperature of the abnormal fire generated by the lamp oil. There was no need to even try with a medicine pot. It wouldn't last long either. What if I directly burn the spiritual grain? Scorching with abnormal fire is a form of tempering after all. Thinking this, he immediately put his thoughts into action, preparing to test its feasibility. Chapter 71. Ashes. Chen Sansi thought. Since the residual material extracted from a person's stomach after feeding them medicine pills had extraordinary medicinal effects, then wouldn't burning spiritual grain into plant ash at high temperatures be somewhat useful as well? Thinking this, he picked up a small handful of spiritual grain and stacked it together with some pine needles for kindling, then smeared a very small amount of lamp oil on top. Not daring to get too close, Chen Sansi held a lit stick far away and carefully approached the lamp oil. Boom! The red flames erupted loudly. In an instant, the spiritual grain and the pine needles were burned to ash. Chen Sansi waited until the flames died down and carefully collected the grass ashes. I need to conduct a live experiment. He cleaned up the house and then quietly climbed over the wall and headed straight for Second Layer Mountain. It took a great deal of effort not to harm the game before catching a rabbit. Come, eat. Chen Sansi pried open the rabbit's mouth and poured a little bit of grass ash into it. The next second, the rabbit started thrashing wildly as if injected with chicken blood, and its strength increased significantly. But it didn't last long before the rabbit, like a deflated ball, breathed its last. Chen Sansi carefully examined the body and saw no signs of darkening in the veins on the surface. But the skin beneath the fur was burning hot and red, as if blood was about to gush out from the inside, appearing as though an overly potent medicine had harmed the internal organs leading to bleeding. Was it too weak to withstand the medicinal effect? I need to try it on something bigger. He searched in the forest. It didn't take long to find a jungle inhabited by cheetahs. The cheetah charged straight at him but was thwacked on the head by the long spear's shaft, leaving it dazed and seeing stars. With the strength from his bone-strengthening skill, Chen Sansi could easily subdue the fierce beast. He pried open the cheetah's mouth with the spear tip and poured in the grass ash. Eat! Roar! The same reaction as the rabbit. After consuming the spiritual grain, the cheetah became extremely agitated. After about 5 minutes, its symptoms subsided. Although it did not die immediately, it lay on the ground bleeding profusely, obviously not going to live much longer. It indeed lasted longer than the rabbit. But internal bleeding occurred as well. If combined with cultivation practice, could the potency of the medicine be controlled? It seems animals won't do. I need to experiment with a live person. Chen Sansi's eyes flashed fiercely. You can capture villagers for experiments, so why can't I capture you? From eavesdropping on Liang Zhan's conversation, not one of the 4 great martial arts schools was innocent. From the reactions of the leopard and the rabbit, there wouldn't be uncontrollable drastic changes happening in an instant. Capturing a disciple with lower skills to test wouldn't be a problem. Moreover, Second Layer Mountain had many medicine gardens. Even if they dared not capture more live humans, they would definitely still have disciples guarding the medicine gardens. Chen Sansi moved through the forest like a ghost. After staking out for 2 hours, he successfully captured a disciple from Zhao's martial arts academy skilled in blood refining technique and brought him to a secluded cave. No severe torture was needed. The martial arts academy disciple confessed everything. Eat. He forced the disciple to consume a small amount of grass ash and then practice his sex cultivation technique. Chen Sansi observed from a distance with a bow in hand. As expected, not only did the martial arts academy disciple not die, but he also performed a set of boxing techniques vigorously, clearly showing the utility of the medicine. It seems my guess was correct. With his goal achieved, Chen Sansi ended the experiment by shooting the disciple dead with an arrow. If he could eat it and be fine, I definitely will be too. Adhering to a cautious principle, he picked up a very small amount of grass ash with his fingertip and sprinkled it into his mouth. The moment it entered his mouth, an indescribable sensation began spreading from the oral cavity, then swept through his entire body. This feeling was different from anything he had experienced with beast hearts or medicine. After ingesting it, it did not get digested and absorbed by organs, but turned automatically into a strange form of energy that integrated into his body, flowing not only in his blood, but also being stored in another system. This was meridians? Meridians and tendons are two different concepts. Tendons are organs, visible human organs that can be seen when flesh and blood are cut open. But meridians are a mystical existence. Neither blood vessels nor tendons, but another system within the human body. Chen Sansi didn't know much about this. He only knew that traditional Chinese medicine studied it. Before refining organs, people practicing martial arts don't need to concern themselves with this concept. What's happening? After consuming the spiritual grain, it turned out to have a direct effect on the meridians. If one wasn't a martial artist, their body simply couldn't withstand it. No wonder small animals would die explosively. Even for martial artists, the capacity to endure was limited. They needed to expend it in time. Chen Sansi hurriedly began practicing his spear technique inside the cave. He then discovered that the spiritual grain was surprisingly helpful for cultivation. Practically every repetition of spear technique practice substantially increased his proficiency by much more than what a medicine bath could provide. Cultivation technique. Undying golden snake spear upper. Entry level. Progress. 88 to 500. Utility. Dragon elephant blood. 9 dragon living veins. An afternoon's improvement was equivalent to several days in the past. Moreover, the spiritual grain also had healing effects. That substance, like a gas, would repair injuries while circulating inside the body. No wonder the old master of Tai Lei Martial Arts Academy hadn't died. However, it still contained toxins. The gas mixed and tangled within the meridians, remaining there unless the energy was expended simultaneously, flushing out the toxins. Yet, the toxin in the meridians metabolized very slowly. Unlike ordinary supplemental medicine, where vigorous cultivation could quickly expend it. Chen Sansi didn't know whether it was because his realm was still low or because his cultivation technique did not involve the meridians. Regardless, only practicing movements in the air made the absorption efficiency of the spiritual grain extremely low. If he consumed too much, leading to the energy lingering too long in the body, the meridian toxin would undeniably cause irreversible damage to his body. Perhaps it would be more effective if I had a sparring partner. Real combat would definitely be better. Chen Sansi recalled battling old song, blood surging with all his might. If he could maintain that state, surely it would increase the speed of absorbing the spiritual grain. Unfortunately, there aren't that many opportunities for real combat. Let's take it slow. The current effects are already astonishing. After mastering the use of spiritual grain, Chen Sansi was full of confidence. According to the original speed, by March and spring, the fastest he could achieve was mastery of bone-strengthening skill, but now he had a high chance of refining internal organs. That is just 4 more months. Even he felt it was a bit exaggerated. 2 months for bone training, 4 months for refining internal. In total, just 6 months. The height that took Xiang Tingchun half a lifetime to reach, he only needed 6 months, and what's more, he was practicing a superior breathing skill. Immortal treasure indeed was a treasure, but in reality, I'm also a maverick. Chen Sansi guessed that a complete immortal treasure would likely be a set of alchemy equipment. It included formulas, a container capable of withstanding temperatures, and most importantly, the lamp oil that could produce a red flame, then connecting to the Emperor's quest for immortality. Once everything is assembled, wouldn't it be possible to concoct the legendary immortal pills? No wonder even the old emperor had sent people over. He must have heard some rumors. Chen Sansi suddenly realized the significance of the matter. If people found out, no amount of lives would suffice to atone. But wait, what did it have to do with him? The immortal treasure was in Xiang Tingchuan's hands. This guy had even declared it outright, afraid that the 4 great martial arts schools wouldn't believe him. All right then. It seems, as long as he was careful, they couldn't trace it back to him. Chen Sansi disposed of the Martial Arts Academy disciple's body and headed home down the mountain. During this period, he hadn't stopped running up and down the mountain, continuously practicing his skills. Skill, concealment, small achievement. Progress, 405/1000. After dinner at night, Chun Sansi began perusing the medical books he had acquired from Medicine Valley. There were several volumes of medical books, from basic theories to treating various diseases to different medicine formulas, including those needed for martial arts practice, all were recorded. Just reading the books would only improve his reading proficiency. Skill. Reading, small achievement. Progress. 395 out of 800. It seems I need to learn a new skill. Although the effects of spiritual grain were good, the metabolism of the meridian toxins was slow, and the usage of various supplements and medicine baths couldn't be stopped. Fortunately, there was a medical officer in the military, merely requiring some time to learn. Speaking of time, the assessment period for new recruits ends tomorrow. I wonder how many among the 100 will prove truly useful. Chapter 72, Refining Organ Martial Artist. Military Roll Call. At the martial arts arena, Chun Sansi began to assess the progress. Those who have cultivated chi blood, step forward. Silence. Chun Sansi changed his approach. Those who have mastered spear technique and pile work, step forward. This time, 18 people stepped out of the ranks. Actually more than what Chun Sansi had anticipated. The rest were naturally array soldiers. Since most of them were very young, there was no one who hadn't learned pile work. Among these people, the one with the best talent turned out to be Wuda. Chun Sansi predicted he would be the first to cultivate chi blood. Zhuang Yi came next. As for Zhao Qiao, he was average, but his archery was good. His honesty and loyalty gave him an edge, and he could be put to other uses in the future. Besides them, Zhu Tong and Wang Li, thanks to the ample supply of medicinal materials in the garrison, had also crossed the threshold into proficiently practicing the blood-refining technique. Logically, they would need to achieve a small accomplishment before they could be promoted to small flag. But Chun Sansi was seriously short on manpower, so he chose some who theoretically would reach that state the soonest and temporarily assigned them the responsibilities of a small flag, though without the actual position. Sir, what about me? Seeing others being appointed official positions, Su Wenkai couldn't sit still and shamelessly edged closer. Old Su. Chun Sansi looked at him. I don't seem to have any positions to give you for now. I don't want a position, Su Wenkai said with a smile. Just find me something to do. I can help, sir, with training the military formations, supervising their proper cultivation, and meanwhile, I can plan how to minimize losses next year. Agreed. Chun Sansi didn't stop him. Skill. Commanding soldiers. Entry-level. Progress. 85/500. Utility. Mainstay. Through experimentation, he found that when he let Zhu Tong and others help teach martial arts, his proficiency would also rise, possibly because they were under his command. But the increase wasn't as much as when he taught personally. Still, it was akin to gaining experience passively. Why not do it? You'll see, sir, Su Wenkai said. I will surely train their basic combat formations to first-rate standards. The new recruits' assessment period ended. Next, Chun Sansi should also have a task, whether it's defense or farming. If it's farming, a lot of miscellaneous tasks would need to be done. Patrolling the city and the like would be best to have more time for training. Hum. The bugle sounded. Lately, Xiang Tingchun had been giving speeches frequently, and everyone had grown accustomed to it. Almost 1,000 soldiers quickly gathered in the martial arts arena. Ji Guangxian, with his personal guard, also stepped onto the high platform and started speaking in a loud voice. My warriors, you have worked hard. As a civil servant, I have no right to meddle in military affairs, so you don't need to be nervous. I am only here to express my care for you all, and also to bring a generous gift. Bring it up. Dozens of jars of liquor were carried onto the high platform. Do you know what this is? Ji Guangxian introduced. This is a medicinal wine brewed from the blood of the exotic beast, the toothed tiger. This is specifically for bone-training martial artists. Whether taken internally or applied externally, it can be said to improve cultivation by leaps and bounds. Let alone in Ding Prefecture, even the entire Yunzhou does not have this kind of exotic beast to hunt. Hence, it is extremely precious and indeed priceless. These were sent over from the capital by Mr. Gao of the military department, all the way over thousands of miles. Mr. Gao said that the court is short on troops and cannot send more reinforcements, but they will never let the soldiers go unrewarded for their service. That is why he sent these medicinal wines over thousands of miles. In the future, all warriors will be able to exchange for it with military merits. Chun Sansi had never heard of this medicinal wine. However, he saw that the other householders were very excited. It indeed seemed to be of extraordinary value. No wonder it's not for sale. This military merit isn't something that can be obtained in a short while. Luckily, Chun Sansi had spiritual grain to consume, so he was not in a hurry. Come to think of it, this magistrate Ji Guangxian must be rolling in wealth. Ever since the raid on Medicine Valley a few days ago, Chun Sansi suddenly felt that hunting was a bit unexciting. How much silver could one earn after all the effort of drilling through deep forests and mountains? How could that compare to the wealth of those lords? However, the guards that Ji Guangxian brought were not few, and it was unknown what their highest level was. After all, he was a magistrate. It was very possible that a refining organ martial artist was among his entourage. Old Chun. Householder Xiong came over. Household's Commander Xiong is calling for you. He was already being addressed as Old Chin, regardless of the fact that he was much younger than them. He arrived at the Central Army tent. Apart from Xiang Tingchun and Luo Dongquan, there were two unfamiliar civil servants present. Shansher, you have completed the process for your promotion to householder. Xiang Tingchun spoke. These two are officials from the military selection department. I have seen the two officials. Chun Sansi cooperated with the officials for identity verification. Apart from the appointment letter, there was also a brand new set of official robes and armor. A householder is a 6th-rank military officer, wearing a blue official robe embellished with images of leopards. Chun Sansi couldn't help but reflect. I guess I've become a so-called dressed beast now. But in the military, opportunities to wear official robes were few, as armor was the more common attire. The armor was still cloth armor, but much more exquisite, including a new iron helmet, and crucial parts reinforced with thick iron plates, considerably increasing its defensive power. It wasn't just Chun Sansi who had been promoted. Luo Dongquan had also been promoted to Deputy Thousand Households, a position from the secondary 5th rank. From the conversation of the officials from the Ministry of Personnel, it could be determined that this person had achieved refining internal organs. That is to say, there were now 2 refining organ martial artists in the garrison. Shansher, have the men under your command completed their assessment period yet? Xiang Tingchun said, in 2 days, you'll replace Zhao Kong, taking over the responsibility of lookout duty at the Great Wall with your troops. The duties of the soldiers stationed at the garrison involved farming and guard duty. Guard duty further included patrolling the city and border defense. Border defense naturally meant keeping watch on the Great Wall, which was relatively taxing as it often required standing guard at night. However, there hadn't been any incidents involving barbarian cavalry raids along the Piyang border in over a decade, so it would likely be rather leisurely. For Chun Sansi, it was just another place to practice martial arts. He clasped his fist and replied, your subordinate acknowledges the command. Shansher, come with me. Xiang Tingchun took him to an empty space. Pick up your 15-stone bow and shoot an arrow at me. The sudden request caught Chun Sansi off guard.
No worries.
Xiang Tingchun laughed heartily. Shoot if I tell you to shoot. All right. Chun Sansi was also curious how his archery would fare against a refining organ martial artist. He didn't hesitate and drew the bow to shoot in one breath. An armor-piercing arrow flew through the air. Clang! A flash of blade light abruptly appeared. Suddenly, the He Miao blade that hung at Xiang Tingchun's waist was in his hand, and the incoming arrow had been split in 2. Chun Sansi was mentally prepared, but his expression still grew serious. The fact that the other man let him shoot meant he was sure there was no danger. He had thought the target would dodge, but unexpectedly, this was the first time that Chun Sansi had failed to hit the target since he began practicing archery. I am at refining organs, small success. Xiang Tingchun slowly slid the blade back into its sheath and explained solemnly. Refining organ martial artists have greatly enhanced senses, reflexes, and explosive power. Your arrows will find it hard to hit them, unless you shoot fast enough that they can't possibly react in time. Chun Sansi bowed. Thank you, Lord Thousand Households, for the guidance. No need to be so formal with me. Xiang Tingchun folded his arms behind his back. I called you over mainly because I have something to say. The new Magistrate Ji has a deep connection with the Song family and might hold some opinions about you. In a way, I've involved you in this matter. I've spoken on your behalf, but it would still be best if you visited him personally to offer your apologies, to prioritize peace. He currently resides in the largest residence on Ningfeng Road in the county town. Very easy to find. Oh yes, and he has refining organ martial artist guards, though they are just at the initial stage of refining organs. He left leisurely after dropping these words. Chun Sansi quickly grasped the implications. This was not about asking him to apologize. It was information on how to kill Ji Guangxian. First, he was reminded that it's difficult to kill a refining organ martial artist with an arrow. Then he was given the home address, and lastly, a considerate hint that the guard was a refining organ martial artist was given, suggesting he strike when the magistrate is alone. It was a complete set of assassination intelligence. It seemed that Xiang Tingchun and the one surnamed Ji weren't on the best of terms. This is quite interesting. We'll see how things go. If Chun Sansi was to kill, he would take out the guard as well, leaving no loose ends. And Xiang Tingchun was definitely not a man to be trusted. It would be better to strike after his own power had been enhanced. It looked like he would need to devote more time to improving not just his cultivation but also his archery and his medical skills. He had hoarded a bunch of medicines without knowing how to use them. With that in mind, Chun Sansi headed to the pharmacy to find Medical Officer Jiang. Chapter 73 Sun Li. Do you want to learn medical skills? Yes, Chun Sansi said. Medicinal materials are too expensive to buy, and I often go hunting in the mountains, so if I learn a bit, I can gather herbs and brew medicine myself, saving silver coins. Your thinking is quite idealistic. The medical officer teased. 99% of the medicinal materials are in the hands of the martial arts hall. Where are you going to find so many wild herbs for yourself? But since you want to learn, I have no objections. Just consider it taking on another apprentice to do some work. Lu Zi. You first teach Mr. Chun how to identify medicinal materials and explain their uses properly. No problem. Lu Zi was the medical officer's son, a successor to his father's profession and also a physician himself. Many of the positions in the garrison were hereditary. Mr. Chun, this herb is called horse blood grass, and it has a blood-nourishing effect, but
Liu Zi explained patiently.
The herbs before him quickly matched up with the medical books Chun Sansi had seen. A panel appeared. Skill, medical skill. Mortal, not entry-level. Progress, 0 out of 100. Utility, none for now. Mortal? Could there also be immortal? Chun Sansi was somewhat puzzled. All the signs now indicated. This world was definitely not a pure martial arts world. It was highly probable that immortals existed as well. That being the case, it made sense that great ancestor Chao Xia alone faced more than 2,000 troops. But new questions arose. Why had no such impressive person appeared since then? And when the old emperor claimed to have dreamed of an immortal who gave him the seeds of spiritual grain, didn't he give him the method to use them? There was still a need to send someone to investigate in Piyang County City. Was there a connection between the immortal treasure in the hands of the barbarian tribes and the immortal the old emperor had dreamed of? It seems that the barbarians have become bolder in recent years because they have treasures in their possession. Having an immortal treasure could indeed create a large number of high-level martial artists. After all, spiritual grain was everywhere. As for lamp oil, only a little was needed to ignite. Then, add a lot of kindling to maintain the flame, without the need to continue using lamp oil. The box in his possession would last a long time. In the future, I can select some subordinates with good talent, who are worth nurturing, to secretly feed them spiritual grain. Together with commanding soldiers' skill, in a few years, I will be able to build my own elite force. Unfortunately, the materials are incomplete. If I had the immortal formula and a container that could withstand the temperature, combined with my medical practice skills, could I perhaps seek the longevity that the emperor desires? The road is long and obstructed. Chen Sansi sighed deeply. All these were very distant matters. Right now, it was still more urgent to improve his cultivation and prepare for war. To be frank, the primary goal was to survive this war. Otherwise, whatever immortal treasure, whatever selected point, all would become meaningless. Helping in the pharmacy until evening, his proficiency increased significantly. Skill, medical skill. Mortal, not entry-level. Progress, 35 out of 100. It was about time, so Chen Sansi packed up his things to go home. I'm out of money. He was utterly penniless. The toxin in the meridians from the spiritual grain and the residue from the supplemental medicines were two different things that could be handled simultaneously. Unfortunately, he really had no money. He met the Sun Li siblings just at the entrance to the barracks. They seemed to have just met with Xiang Tingchun and neither looked in good spirits. Senior sister, Chen Sansi greeted. Just in time to have dinner at my place. At the dinner table, Sun Li barely had the appetite to lift her chopsticks. Little junior brother, what do you think about the household's deployment of troops? I have no particular opinion. Even if Chen Sansi had an opinion, it wouldn't matter. The order was issued by the Ministry of War, and I can only obey. Junior apprentice brother has the right attitude. But, Sun Li said displeased, this battle is pointless. The main battlefield is clearly on the northwest border, in the 3 states. The rest of the places just need to hold their cities. Why create unnecessary problems? With just a word from the crown prince, wouldn't everyone at the bottom scramble to seize the opportunity? As Sun Buki picked at his rice, his voice was muffled. If we're going to fight, then let's fight. It's not like we haven't fought battles before. Sun Li ignored him and looked towards the kitchen. Sister Exine Lan, stop being busy and come eat with us. In these days, she and Gu Xinlan had gotten along very well. Don't be fooled by Sun Li's fierce saber skills, her efficient and heroic demeanor, or the appearance of a strong woman on the surface. In fact, she was actually quite interested in embroidery and the like. In her spare time, she often did needlework with Sister Lan and chatted about household affairs. It's just that her skills were somewhat lacking. Chen Sansi had once seen her work, where she held up an embroidered duck but insisted it was a pair of mandarin ducks. Only Gu Xinlan was both clever and skilled with her hands, prompting Sun Li to seek her guidance even more. Plus, since Gu was a few years older, she had taken the initiative to address her as sister, without any air of being the daughter of the governor mansion. And Sun Buki never made others feel as if he was above them. From this, it was clear the Sun family had excellent teaching and family values.
Sister Xin Lang.
Sun Li spoke with concern. What crime did your family commit in the capital city to be exiled to the border, and to have fallen into the hands of traffickers? The capital city? Chen Sansi had always known that Gu Xinlan was not a country girl, but her specific background was unclear. His father had taken a liking to her at first sight because of her attractive appearance and fair skin. Country children had to work in the fields from a young age. How could they maintain fair skin? He had not expected she was from the capital city. Out of respect, since she never mentioned it, he never asked. He guessed that Sun Li must have looked into his background and did a check on Sister Lan along the way. Little Sister Li, I was too young at that time to remember, replied Gu Xinlan, pursing her lips. Please let bygones be bygones. As a mere convicted's descendant, I was fortunate to be saved by your father and brought to his home to retain some dignity in living. It was presumptuous of me. Sun Li apologized. If Sister Exine Lan doesn't wish to talk about it, I definitely won't ask again. Sister, I should head back to the inn first. Now full from eating and drinking, Sun Buki put down his chopsticks. He and his sister had a clear division of labor. One was responsible for watching the city's martial arts hall, and the other was responsible for keeping an eye on the military officers' movements. After dinner, Chun Sansi dared not slack off at all. After drinking a bowl of replenishing essence soup, he prepared to practice with his spear. Junior apprentice brother is still drinking replenishing essence soup? Seeing that he was short on funds, Sun Li took out a silver note. I didn't bring much money with me when I left home, but here's 300 taels. You can use it for now, it should last you a while. Isn't this inappropriate? Chun Sansi said as he accepted the silver note. Cultivation levels relate directly to survival. He couldn't afford to be pretentious. With these 300 taels, he could continue to improve his cultivation seamlessly and rapidly. Go ahead and practice. Sun Li stood up, ready to join Sister Lan in the bedroom to study women's needlework. Wait, sister. Tonight I still want to trouble you, he said. Clang, 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 clang. Loud metallic clashing sounds resonated in the courtyard, just as he had speculated. Sparring indeed helped absorb the spiritual grain in the meridians, but it was still not enough. Real combat was necessary. To put it plainly, it meant killing people, preferably in large numbers. Unfortunately, where could one find so many people to kill? Soon, it was the day to carry out the official duties. Chun Sansi arrived early at the barracks to report, and then, led by Zhao Kong, he took over 100 men and departed. From today forth, he would be responsible for guarding the Great Wall in Piyang County. Chapter 74, Great Wall. Great Wall. It was of utmost importance for any ancient regime. In the Central Plains, the greatest enemy was the ferocious nomadic tribes from the grasslands. Before the Great Wall was built, incursions by barbarian cavalry into the south to plunder were frequent every year. And since these were small-scale cavalry raids with high mobility, they would typically raid and kill and then leave, leaving the defenders powerless. Until the Great Wall arose, blocking the trampling of horse hooves. The nomads would need to pay a huge cost if they wanted to raid. They either had to siege or cross mountains and ridges on foot. The former required a loss of lives, while the latter, even if loot was obtained, meant being pursued and killed without the boost of war horses. So, out of necessity, the originally scattered tribes of the grasslands also began to unite gradually, eventually forming several powerful alliances to collectively oppose the states of the Central Plains. Furthermore, contrary to what many people believe, the Great Wall was not a drain on resources but rather a significant saving on defense spending. Chun Sansi once read in dashing records that during the Kaiyuan period, an official calculated an account for the emperor. The details were too complicated, but in the end, it turned out that compared to the cost of maintaining a large number of soldiers for defense, building the Great Wall was 10 times more cost-effective. The Piyang territory is surrounded by mountains and the terrain is rugged. The area where cavalry and large forces could advance is limited to around 200 li, and the Great Wall just covers this range. Not far north of the 1,000 households outpost, one could see a structure resembling a giant python. Households Commander Chun, you've worked hard. Zhao Kong explained the work content. In 10 days, the men from Household's Commander Feng will come to switch duty, and only then can you go back to rest. From now on, the 3 of them, each a commander of 100 households, would take turns being responsible for the watch duties on the Great Wall. Over 100 people started to take over the changing of the guard. Just changing guard was a major operation, so it was done every 10 days to improve efficiency. Chun Sansi rode his white swan horse, patrolling along the Great Wall. When the handover finished, he too climbed up to the top of the wall via the staircase. The Great Wall was about 7 meters high, with a base width of 6 meters and a top width of 5 to 6 meters. Every 10 li, there would be a signal tower, and each signal tower would be manned by 5 soldiers. 200 li of the Great Wall was just enough for the manpower of 100 households. It might seem that a distance this long, manned by just 100 people, would be too few, but in reality it was completely sufficient. The main purpose of the Great Wall was to stop war horses, slow down attacks, and transmit information. Once the enemy was spotted, a signal fire would be lit immediately. Upon the rise of the warning smoke, the entire force of Pyong 1,000 households would react at the fastest speed, and the entire process would not exceed the time it takes half an incense stick to burn. Additionally, this place was not the main battlefield, and the barbarian tribes outside the city were not populous, so the situation was generally stable. Since it was the first day, Zhao Kong also left experienced soldiers at each signal tower to pass on their knowledge, explaining the lookout points to pay attention to and the various uses of signal fires. Signal fires were not just about lighting a beacon and being done with it. It was a complete intelligence system, with 4 types of signal equipment: beacon, beacon table, beacon gourd, and beacon wood, and 4 kinds of signals using fire, light, smoke, and flags. Along with complex combinations, they were able to convey detailed intelligence. For example, how many enemy forces were attacking, from which position, and so on. Seeing it in books versus seeing it in real life was completely different. 10 days. For the next 10 days, we'll be here in one go. As a leader, Chun Sansi had to set an example and could not slack off. But he wouldn't waste time either. Inside a watchtower, the soldiers took turns resting. Therefore, Chun Sansi was on watch all night, and during the day, he took advantage of resting hours to ride back to camp and help out in the pharmacy. As for sleep, he only slept 3 to 4 hours a day, but fortunately, with the spirit provided by reading, he could withstand it. After 10 days, Chun Sansi had nearly spent the 300 silver coins given by his senior sister, and with the potent effects of spiritual grain, his proficiency approached mastery in the bone-strengthening skill. Cultivation technique. Undying Golden Snake Spear entry level. Progress. 410 to 500. And that's under circumstances where I can't quickly neutralize the toxin of spiritual grain. If there were actual combat, progress could be even faster, and there's no need to worry about progress being too fast and noticeable to others. Chun Sansi specifically inquired about it. Just within the 8 camps, there were 2 he knew of who were advancing faster than him. The first was Supervisor's son. Second was the 3rd son of Lord Governor's son who had passed away. The remaining ones certainly exist, needing some free time to ask Sun Li to find out. Besides the 8 camps, the capital city definitely has many, and so do the major powers. So to say, the pace at which one's cultivation increases was indeed astonishing, but still within the realm of genius, and coupled with being mistaken for the 9-dragon body, it was completely plausible. For now, there was no need to go to great lengths to conceal one's cultivation level. Feeling rapid progress was largely because the Pyong territory was too remote. Clang! Chun Sansi exhaled deeply and put down the long spear in his hand. Another night on watch, the east brightening with the white of dawn. He stood atop the city wall, gazing into the distance. These 10 days had passed very peacefully. Not a single figure had appeared on the grasslands. He actually hoped that small groups of cavalry would attack, so as to hone his spear technique in combat and aid the absorption of the energy from the spiritual grain. But such things could not be forced. Fortunately, with such long periods of strenuous effort, his medical skill was about to reach entry level. Eating more supplemental medicines would do just as well. 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. Household's Commander Feng arrived on time to change guard. Chun Sansi rode back to camp on the White Swan horse along with the other soldiers. Lately, riding the horse back and forth and feeding it personally was also improving his proficiency. His horse control skill was quickly approaching the next stage. Skill. Horse control. Entry level. Progress. 150/200. He did wonder, after all, a horse was just transportation. How much further could it be improved? Upon returning to the military camp, Chun Sansi headed straight for the pharmacy. But at the entrance to the camp, he encountered a familiar figure. Wang Ji had returned from visiting relatives in the prefecture city. Stony. Wang Ji, grinning with his teeth bared, came over cheerfully. How have things been recently? Which selection officer visited? The young master and daughter of Lord Governor Sunday. Chun Sansi dismounted. Right. Miss Sun was also looking for you. They? Wang Ji tentatively asked. What did they say? Miss Sun said she doesn't know you. 100 households Wang. Have you changed your name? Chun Sansi said. You asked me to plead on your behalf, but you should at least tell me what you did in the past, right? Wang Ji looked troubled and said with a bitter smile, Stony, I've changed my mind. You don't have to speak for me anymore. If you see Lord Governor's son later, don't mention me. Just say the cultivation technique was found by you on the street. Having said this, he walked away as though fleeing. Chen Sansi found it all very bewildering. So afraid of the Sun Li siblings? If Wang Ji truly had a serious crime, he wouldn't be alive to this day. It didn't make sense. Unable to figure it out, he stopped thinking about it and headed straight for the pharmacy. Household's Commander Chen really doesn't rest at all. The medical officer Jiang found it frightening. This young man didn't seem afraid of working himself to death. I dare not rest. Chen Sansi, already well acquainted with the pharmacy, started to help sort the medicinal herbs and assisted with adding water to decoct medicines for the military officers. He also possessed an eidetic memory. Any medicinal herb that had appeared in the pharmacy, its utility and medicinal properties were all engraved in his mind. Any supplemental medicine that had been decocted in the pharmacy, he had firmly memorized the formulas and secrets. Finally, the panel surfaced. Skill. Medical skill, mortal, entry-level. Progress, 0/500. Utility, mastery of medicinal principles, recognize medicine upon sight. Recognize medicine upon sight. For ordinary medicines, seeing them would enable him to decipher the formula. Chapter 75, Xuanwu Camp Commander. Deciphering formulas? Indeed a valuable skill. However, it seems temporarily unnecessary. At least within the boundaries of Piyang County, there isn't much talk of special formulas. Most pharmacies simply provide the prescribed doses of herbs, which people take home to boil with water. But since martial arts secret manuals are often jealously guarded, it's certain that truly advanced medicinal recipes are also treated as family treasures and hidden away. So just because they're not needed now doesn't mean they won't be useful in the future. It's still a useful skill to have. At this moment, as Chen Sansi watched the clay pots on the stove, he saw not merely dark liquids within them but detailed formulas. He knew exactly how much of each herb was needed, whether it be fresh or dried, and the required age of the plants, down to the smallest measurement. Fortunately, the silver that senior sister Sun gave him has also been almost spent. Practicing martial arts is truly like a bottomless pit when it comes to resources. Going forward, procuring my own herbal materials and preparing them myself is the long-term plan. Huff! After running back and forth for 10 days, saying I'm not tired would be impossible. Finally achieving my phase goals, Chen Sansi let out a long sigh of relief and rode his white swan horse back home. Pushing open the door to his house, he saw no one around. He guessed she might be doing needlework in the bedroom. Indeed, and Sun Li was there as well. Having heard the noise in advance, she had already put everything away. Little junior brother, you don't even announce yourself when you enter. Chen Sansi said, Please forgive me, senior sister Sun. I didn't know you were here. Sun Li suddenly realized that she was in someone else's home. Little junior brother, you've been working hard and dutiful recently. I won't disturb your rest. She picked up the blade that was placed by the table and took her leave with clasped hands. Brother sure. Look how dusty and dirty you've gotten. Gu Xinlan was packing up her needlework tools. I'll go and prepare something for you to eat first. Good. Chen Sansi curiously asked, What were you two embroidering? He opened the storage box and found it contained handkerchiefs, embroidered shoes, purse bags, and the like. There were also a few where the threads were a mess and the patterns distorted. Li actually has a tough life too, Gu Xinlan said softly. She told me she never liked to practice martial arts, but with no brothers at home and a desire to relieve her father's worries, she had no choice but to take up the blade. Is that so? Chen Sansi was different. Practicing martial arts was tiring, but he genuinely enjoyed the feeling of improving himself. He stretched out his arms for Sister Lan to help him remove his armor. Then, without even bothering to take off his underclothes, he lay down on the bed and fell asleep. He slept straight through until the next day dawned. In the morning, after dealing with the military camp's affairs, Chun Sansi headed to the old house in Yanbian village to gather all of his battle spoils, then shouldered them and went back up the mountain. Boiling medicines at home, even with the chimney covered, would let sense drift far. It was definitely not an option. A secluded spot was necessary. Luckily, Tiger Head Mountain was vast and boundless, with many secluded and desolate places. Chun Sansi soon found a deep cave on the cliffside of a barren mountain. With many stones and scant vegetation around, there was essentially no game or plants, so people rarely came by, and the cave was halfway up the cliff, making it quite concealed. After ensuring there were no issues, he began organizing his things. All these herbs together must be worth several thousands of silver. Aside from the main ingredients for blood-replenishing soup and replenishing essence soup, there are also plenty of materials for bone-nourishing soup and medicine bath. Enough for a month's use. And even if they're used up, it doesn't matter. I can always quietly borrow some from the master's homes. After all, I won't be earning money through hard labor anymore. Unfortunately, blood-replenishing soup and replenishing essence soup have little utility for me now. I'll wait for the right moment to use them. Chun Sansi spread out his wares and began mixing the medicinal ingredients. He prepared 10 doses each of bone-nourishing soup and medicine bath first, and then commenced his solitary cultivation in the cave. It wasn't until evening approached that he descended the mountain and returned home, conveniently bringing back a goat and pigeon to prepare for dinner. What's that noise? From a distance, Chun Sansi could hear the sounds of commotion and fighting coming from the military settlement. And it sounded all too familiar. Wang Ji, Sun Buki? He hurriedly dropped the game in front of his house and rushed over to check the situation. In front of a residence, Sun Buki was holding a long spear, blocking the entrance, refusing to let the portly armored military officer in front of him enter. He usually looked lazy and slack, but now his eyes were fierce, burning with anger, and even his voice was slightly trembling. "Well done, Tang Ruishan. I thought you were dead. Turns out, you're hiding here, clinging to life. This young master." Wang Ji, also deviating from his usual sly, lazy, and greedy demeanor, said anxiously, "Could you have mistaken me for someone else? My name is Wang Ji, not Tang Ruishan." "Bullshit," Sun Buki said through gritted teeth. "Don't think I couldn't recognize you just because you've put on some weight. Even if you were burned to ashes, I would still know you. Give back my brother's life." Before his words had even finished, his long spear had already thrust forward. The spear was incredibly swift and powerful, extraordinary. Wang Ji dared not look directly at the opponent, only drawing out his slender mo blade and placing it horizontally in front of him, effortlessly blocking the bone-training martial artist's strike. "Young master, you really have the wrong person." Sun Buki's spear technique was as swift as the wind and fast as lightning, turning into a violent storm lunging at the other party. But each thrust was easily parried by Wang Ji. Clearly, although both were bone-training martial artists, their strengths were not on the same level. Even though Wang Ji never countered and only defended, Sun Buki's chi blood was gradually depleting, and his speed was noticeably slowing. At that moment, he regretted not practicing his martial arts well, unable to kill the detestable person in front of him.
Tang Ruishan.
You coward. 15 years have passed. Don't you even dare to admit your own name now? Hiding in a place like this. What's the point of living? Hearing these words, Wang Ji's expression froze for a moment. Then with a clang, he dropped the mo blade from his hand. He finally admitted, "Junior brother, kill me if you must." Having said that, he closed his eyes, truly no longer defending himself. "Good, I will kill you." Sun Buki raised his spear to thrust at the throat. Just as Chun Sansi was about to intervene, another figure in red, alerted by the commotion, arrived. "Stop, sister." Sun Buki abruptly stopped the long spear that was already thrusting forward. "Sister, look who this is?" "I know." Sun Li had already guessed it. Her cold gaze turned to Wang Ji. "Tang Ruishan, Long time no see. Junior sister. Upon seeing her, Wang Ji knelt down. You and junior brother. Take this dog's life of mine. Sun Li's face was expressionless. Keep your life, and die on the battlefield come spring. Yuki, come with me. Sister, I told you to come. Humph. Only then did Sun Buki retrieve his spear and leave with his sister. Meanwhile, Wang Ji knelt on the ground, not getting up for a long time. There was no need to ask. Chun Sansi already had a rough idea about the cause of this farce. Sun Buki mentioned something that happened 15 years ago, and the death of his third brother. 15 years ago was the 57th year of Longqing. That year, a fierce battle broke out between the 8 camps and Nanshu country at Kongning Prefecture. The Black Tortoise camp was entirely wiped out during the battle. The main general at the time was Tang Ruishan. The deputy general was Sun Buhui. Chapter 76 above Martial Saint. Are you all right? After waiting for a while, Chun Sansi stepped forward and helped Fatty Wang to his feet. Did you hear everything? With a dazed expression, Wang Ji responded, Yes, it was I who caused the death of my junior and the soldiers. Then how come you haven't lost your head? Chun Sansi asked. If it was a major blunder in commanding that led to the annihilation of an entire elite camp, the main general would definitely be sentenced to death. Wang Ji kept quiet for a long time before finally speaking in a hoarse voice. I had no choice at the time. Do you understand? I had no choice. He knelt back down to the ground and slumped sitting. In the 57th year of Longqing, under the instigation of Yen Liang and others, the court summoned the Lord Governor back to the capital city under false charges and threw him into the imperial prison. That same year, Nanshu country launched a large-scale invasion. The 8 camps were deployed to defend and counterattack. My real name is Tang Ruishan, and I was the Xuanwu camp commander at the time. However, the defeat wasn't due to my miscommand. At that time, Nanshu country had already seized many strategic fortresses, including Lingchuan Prefecture. If we didn't find a way to swiftly take back Lingchuan Prefecture, once Nanshu country stabilized its footing, the south would be essentially lost. But Lingchuan Prefecture has treacherous terrain, easy to defend but hard to attack. The best strategy was to first breach through Kongning Prefecture on the eastern side. But such a breach was not easy to create. The ideal approach was to wait for the rest of the imperial army to arrive as reinforcements and launch a fierce attack with several times the manpower. But they didn't move. Wang Ji became agitated. The emperor's imperial army was already assembled, yet they deliberately didn't set out towards Kongning Prefecture. Why do you think that was? They were waiting for you to be killed. Chun Sansi provided the answer. Exactly. Wang Ji spoke angrily. The court wanted to use this opportunity to weaken the power of the 8 camps, and it would be better still if a few generals died, making it easier for others to take over in the future. The supervisor confined in the imperial prison was used as a hostage to threaten us. If we disobeyed and delayed until the imperial army had no choice but to intervene, it would only confirm the disloyalty of the 8 camps, and what end would our master meet? The 8 camps would surely be targeted for slow purge. Conversely, if the 8 camps stood up and showed loyalty at this time, willing to lead the charge for the imperial army, it would prove that we were still under the control of the court. Maybe then our master and the others could find a way to survive. I saw that very clearly. And it wasn't enough just to use flesh and blood to storm the city for the imperial army. There had to be one more person. Chun Sansi's brow furrowed slightly. Third young master? Wang Ji did not answer directly, but instead spoke in a lower tone. Do you know when the 8 camps were established? 72 years ago, from the first year of Longqing, the year the current emperor ascended the throne. Our master knew the emperor since they were young, being a confidant within the hearts of the emperor. Otherwise, how could he have been granted the power to recruit troops independently? Even the fact that the common people called the 8 camps the Sun family army, the emperor tolerated it. Guess why, specifically in the 57th year of Longqing, he could no longer tolerate it? Because a genius emerged from the Sun family. Our master had a total of 5 children. The oldest and the second, died early in battles, and even if they were alive, their talents were mediocre. They would not have made significant strides in the path of martial arts. But the third Sun Buhui was a genius. Practicing martial arts for less than 4 years, he experienced countless battles, undefeated in all, highly revered in the military. In the past, the emperor would tolerate the existence of a Sun family army, because he knew this situation would eventually end. Once our master retired or passed away, the court would straightforwardly gain a corps of elite troops, a perfectly advantageous arrangement. Who wouldn't be pleased with that? However, the emergence of Sun Buhui changed everything. Buhui, exceptionally talented and highly ambitious, even declared that he would take over the 8 camps in the future. This touched the emperor's raw nerve. For the great Shang dynasty, having a supervisor like Sun was an asset, a model of harmonious monarch-subject relations. But if the Sun family were to produce another governor, the nature of the matter would change completely. By then, the 8 camps would truly become the Sun family army, and the Sun family would no longer just be sealed border governors but akin to a princely state of a different surname. The court, how could it possibly allow such a thing to happen? And yet all the generals in the 8 camps are very supportive of him. How could the emperor allow this situation to occur? Thus, he took advantage of a major court case to incarcerate Lord Governor Sun in the imperial prison. So that was it. From Chun Sansi's perspective, there were only 2 solutions in this situation. First, Lord Governor Sun dies, and the Sun family is stripped of military power, at least placed under house arrest. Second, Sun Buhui dies. Once again, Wang Zhi's voice came to his ears. But after all, I watched my junior brother grow up. How could I bear to see him die? I thought of many ways, even considered rebelling. But with the master detained in the imperial prison, if we acted, he would be the first to die. Moreover, at that time, there was no second martial saint in the 8 camps. It was simply not possible to win. In the end, I could only lead my junior brother Sun Buhui to attack the city, prepared to die with him, and use 1 camp's brothers to buy a retreat for the 8 camps. But I didn't die. I also don't know how I possibly didn't die. Wang Zhi's eyes were bloodshot, his face pained. I was the first to climb the city wall, not retreating a step, continuing to fight until I lost consciousness, but I just did not die. When I woke up, I was in a bed, and Nanshu country had already been repelled. At that time, Buqi and Sun Li, who were still mere children, stood by my bed, asking for their 3rd brother. The master also returned. He said that from then on our fate as master and disciple was finished, and told me to take care of myself. Chun Sansi asked, because of the death of the 3rd son of the supervisor?
No.
Wang Zhi trembled all over. His old man did not blame me for that. He said it was his own incompetence, unable to protect his own son, and also blamed the younger brother for his youthful impulsiveness, that he should bear the corresponding consequences. The reason he sent me away was because at the time, only the younger brother needed to die, not to lead to the annihilation of the entire Xuanwu camp. Too rash, not fit to be a general anymore. What happened after? Chun Sansi asked. Did it just end like that? No, it didn't end. Wang Zhi raised his head. Not long after, the master avenged us. He went back to the capital city alone and outside the imperial palace. He stabbed to death the minister of war who had long delayed sending troops and then left the capital city openly. Killing someone in the imperial palace? Wasn't that almost the same as doing it in front of the emperor's face? Why didn't he act before? Chin Sansi wondered. Could it be that, after the incident, Lord Supervisor had made another breakthrough in martial arts? Rumors from the outside. Wang Zhi explained. The master had broken through to a realm above martial saint. Above martial saint, the immortal path? Chun Sansi felt it was far off. He currently was still vague about the realm above refining internal, only knowing it was called Hua Jin. And with everything having turned out this way, with Lord Supervisor not rebelling, could the emperor still tolerate him? Unless the 2 of them couldn't kill each other. Chun Sansi recalled again the matter of the emperor's many years of spiritual cultivation. Upon reflection, the conflict between the 8 camps and the imperial family seemed significant. But he still had to go to the governor mansion. Because according to the court's nature, if one truly reached a certain level in martial arts, who knows how they might try to control him. Compared to that, the governor mansion was still the best place to go. Chapter 77, Courting. I never expected Fatty Wong to have such a past. Now that we're on the subject, how did someone in the bone-forging perfection realm manage to become the commander of 10,000 men as the camp general? Did he drop in rank? Seeming to catch onto his thoughts, Wang Ji mocked himself. Though I still cling to life, my body is practically ruined. My meridians and internal organs are damaged, and unless an immortal heals me, I'll be stuck at bone-forging perfection for the rest of my life, unable to advance even an inch, let alone return to my former state. So he really did drop in rank. Is that why he let himself go? Not necessarily. Truth be told, despite Wang Ji amassing a fair amount of wealth, Chun Sansi had never seen him spend any money. The guy even liked to mooch meals off others. He exploited the martial arts hall the most. Nowadays, the young masters around the county avoid him like the plague. Possibly, he was saving money to buy medicine for his injuries. As the two continued their conversation, Wang Ji's mood gradually returned to normal. He gave a bitter smile. I taught you the cultivation technique out of a selfish desire to do something for our master. But now, it seems like I won't get to see her again. However, as long as you are in Pyong, you can call on me anytime if you need anything. Chun Sansi didn't need to offer comfort. They were both grown men. He patted the other man's shoulder and took his leave. Learning the secrets of Longqing's 57th year only made him more eager to improve his strength. Even Supervisor Sun, at one point, wasn't strong enough to protect his own son. But once one surpasses Martial Saint, even if that person stabs an imperial officer in front of the emperor, no one would dare lay a finger on them. Everything is based on strength. Push harder. In no more than 10 or 15 days, Chun Sansi would be able to achieve bone strengthening. He returned home. The Sun Li siblings were both seated in the courtyard. Sister, why did you stop me from killing that surnamed Tang just now? Sun Buki was still cursing under his breath. He was certainly hateful for what he did back then. But if it had been you or me, what choice would we have made? Sun Li's eyes were complex. Instead of obsessing over the past, it's better to cultivate diligently. Learn from your junior brother. He's even responsible for the Great Wall's defense without slacking off. His cultivation has surely improved significantly. Shanshur has the 9-dragon body. How could I compare to that? Sun Buki spread his hands. But sister, you yourself at least have the Fire Lotus martial body. With a bit of effort, you might have a chance in the future. Fire Lotus martial body? Chun Sansi took the opportunity to inquire. My understanding of martial bodies is very limited. Could you please explain it in detail, sister? The 8 camps are renowned far and wide, and among them, those with extraordinary qualifications are surely not limited to the supervisor and Sansi. His channels of information were limited. The news he received might not be accurate. Sun Buki played coy. Guess how long my sister has been practicing martial arts? Typically, martial arts practitioners begin laying the foundation at the age of 12. Formal training starts around 15. The practice of martial arts in this world is extremely taxing on the body, and starting too young can backfire. He estimated Sun Li to be about 19 years old. But Sister Lan had mentioned that she disliked practicing martial arts, and since he was asking, it surely hadn't been for long. 1 year. Unable to hold it in, Sun Buki blurted out before her, the Fire Lotus martial body, also known as the congenital saber body, allows for astonishing speed in learning saber technique. A year ago, my sister picked up the saber to start practicing martial arts. In 1 year, she's reached bone training perfection close to refining internal. But she still can't compare to you. Currently, there are few in the 8 camps who can match you, but there are some. For example, our eldest brother with the mixed element dominator body, reached refining internal in half a year and Hua Jin in 1 year. Besides, the speed of cultivation isn't necessarily tied only to one's physique. Comprehension plays a huge role too. There's a senior brother with an excellent root bone, but he's not the brightest. Supposedly, he could have achieved refining internal in 7 months, but he couldn't understand the secret skill books, dragging it out to a year and a half. And there's another senior brother with a slightly lesser physique expected to achieve refining internal in a year, but because of his sharp comprehension, he did it in 8 months. Comprehension and physique are different things. They're not one and the same. Chen Sansi nodded thoughtfully. It matched with what he thought. His own cultivation pace was good, making him what people call a genius. But he was far from being rarely seen in this world, and was only considered top tier in Piyang territory. Perhaps it was related to his incomplete physique. Others have one complete physique. But not him. The blood of the dragon elephant and the 9 dragon living veins are obviously a mixed match. There's definitely a boost to cultivation, but until he gathers a complete set, he may not surpass those with a complete physique. And let's not forget, he has the spirited heart from his studies, and with the help of spiritual grain, he has achieved his current cultivation pace. At the end of the day, he was still a frog in the well with a short-sighted vision. Leaving Piyang County was where the real world began.
Brother Buji.
Chun Sansi cupped his fists and said, "Just now, I saw that your spear technique was extraordinary. I wonder if you could give me some guidance. Finding someone to spar with, it's actually better to have a controlled gap in realms. Comparing with Sun Li was a bit too much. Sun Buki was proficient in bone training skill and was conveniently 1 realm higher than him. Are you sure?" Sun Buki was full of confidence. "You may be better than me at archery, but you definitely can't beat my spear technique." Arriving at the martial arts arena, they found an open space. Sun Buki cupped his fists and said, "You practice the undying golden snake, and I practice the flying snake wind. Its specialty is speed, so you'd better be careful." The next moment, the long spear in his hand, truly like a flying serpent, reached him in the blink of an eye. What a spear! Chun Sansi had seen his exchange with Wang Ji earlier and was on guard. Yet it was still faster than he had anticipated. After all, this was the young master of the Sun family. Even if he was lazy on a daily basis, how bad could he really be? Fortunately, he had the blood of the dragon elephant and the 9 dragon living veins. He was in no way inferior in terms of strength. He could also barely keep up with the speed. But it's still the same saying. As long as he didn't lose at the start, there was a very high chance of winning for him. Whistling sounds from the martial arts arena continuously pierced the air, deterring anyone within dozens of meters from coming close. This is the undying golden snake? Sun Buki's confidence quickly dissipated into thin air. He originally thought that with the advantage of his cultivation technique and the suppression of his realm, he would win within 15 moves at worst. Yet after 20 moves, he still couldn't claim victory. The other party seemed a bit slower in speed, but in reality, he always managed to respond perfectly to incoming attacks, without any flaws whatsoever. "I don't believe it." Sun Buki exerted all his might, and his spear technique became more dazzling than ever. Normally, at this point, Chun Sansi would have started looking for opportunities to counterattack. But today, he wasn't aiming to win. He just wanted to maintain the state of his surging chi blood to refine his spear technique and accelerate the improvement of his proficiency. During this process, he could feel it. The 9 dragon tendon absorbing the blood of the dragon elephant, then tempering the root bone through the bone membrane and meridians, the interplay of 2 different physical qualities. It was uncertain what the end result would be. "Junior brother, you truly can't win against me." Sun Buki initially got somewhat panicky, thinking he was going to be taken down across realms, but eventually he stabilized and fought more vigorously. This idiot! Only Sun Li could see that her brother was being led by the nose by Chun Sansi. How long has he been practicing martial arts? And yet he can fight toe-to-toe with the young master of the Sun family. Not far away. As Ji Guangxian passed by, he stopped to watch. Being a scholar, he couldn't discern the intricacies and involuntarily looked towards his personal guard. Just how good is this kid? Did I underestimate him? It is said that he has the 9-dragon body. Danguard explained straightforwardly. If nothing unexpected happens, in the future he will at least be a camp general. The elite camp commander commands 10,000 soldiers. Oh? If you say so, serving under me might indeed be beneath his talents. Ji Guangxin stroked his beard, pondering. But if I can present him to Mr. Gao, to the crown prince, it would also count as a merit for me. I'm afraid that would be difficult. Danguard said. It looks like he is dead set on joining the 8 camps. The lad is still young and too naive. Ji Guangxin drawled. Elephant sect is old and his majesty is getting on in years. This world will eventually belong to the crown prince. If you explain the importance of this relationship clearly, any smart person would come around, wouldn't they? Moreover, as long as he is willing to follow me, the Ji family's ancestral secret medicine is plentiful. Why would he need to risk his life in the military to earn merits for exchange? Yes. Danguard accepted the order. Sir, let me try. Chapter 78. The secret recipe not passed on. Time passes like this, without cessation, day and night. 10 days flew by in a flash. Every morning, Chun Sansi pretended to go hunting in the mountains, when in fact he was boiling concoctions and brewing medicine. Upon returning, he would ask Sun Buki to accompany him in spear training. Moreover, with the addition of spiritual grain as aid, the breakthrough was only one step away. This was even after he intentionally slowed down the progress for 2 days due to concerns about poisoning in the meridians. Otherwise, it would have been quicker. On the martial arts arena, Chun Sansi and Sun Buki were sparring for the countless time. But today, Sun Buki's complexion looked somewhat unpleasant. He sensed something was amiss. Every other day, Chun Sansi's spear technique would improve slightly from before. At first, he was barely able to hold his ground. Gradually, it turned into barely hanging on. And then it became impossible to resist. It wasn't just the power, even the unique swiftness of the flying snake spear technique no longer held any advantage, and he was even beginning to fall behind. How were you able to enhance the undying golden snake spear to such an extent? Sun Buki was astonished. It must be due to the 9-dragon body, but junior brother, your understanding must also be remarkably high. Another 10 rounds passed. Sun Buki was dizzy and weak, his chi blood declining, barely able to hold on. Buchi, hold on a little longer. Sun Li, who had been practicing with a blade beside them, stopped her movements and said to him, the junior brother is about to make a breakthrough. Breakthrough? Sun Buki paused for a moment, then clenched his teeth, exerting all his strength desperately. On the martial arts arena, 2 long spears clashed like 2 giant battling snakes, hissing and thundering continuously, causing no one to dare approach within 100 meters. Chun Sansi no longer maintained the balance, unleashing all his skills. His reed leaf spear became increasingly heavier, faster, and the variations in his moves became more agile, even bordering on eerie. In the end, the long spear seemed to possess its own life. It didn't require him to think at all, and would automatically launch fierce attacks at the opponent until it found the right opportunity to knock down the other giant snake. At the same time, the bones nourished by the dragon elephant blood and 9-dragon living veins underwent a qualitative change. Cultivation technique. Undying golden snake spear. Upper mastery. Progress. 0/1000. Utility. Dragon elephant blood. 9 dragon tendons. Innate Vajra. Innate Vajra. Tempering the bones into iron, training the skin into copper. When reaching great success, one's body will be indestructible as Vajra. Common bone training usually relies on abnormal bone and shen skin. The copper skin iron bone is probably something only those with the innate Vajra body can possess. Did I really turn into such a hodgepodge? Dragon elephant blood, 9 dragon tendons, and now the Vajra body. Chun Sansi felt the strength in his bones. Even though he hadn't achieved the iron bone level yet, they were definitely tough enough to withstand being chopped by a blade or pierced by an axe. Even if attacked from both front and rear, the error tolerance would be significantly high. Mastering bone training in 3 months. Sun Buki was knocked down by the suddenly surged terrifying force and naturally knew the opponent had succeeded in the breakthrough. He stood up. As long as your ability to lead troops is passable, you will definitely become a main general of a regiment in the future. Thank you, Senior Brother Buchi, for sparring with me for so many days. Chinsansi knew that it wasn't an easy task. Why be so polite? Sun Buki waved his hand. But I won't be able to keep up with you in the future. Then, Senior Sister Sun will have to take over the hard work, Chun Sansi cheekily stated. Ha! You're not at all shy about asking for help. Sun Li, holding her blade, responded. Let's talk when I'm free. I've got things to do. Chun Sansi knew they were still investigating the matter regarding the immortal treasure. Even the magistrate, the Lord Prefect, and Xiang Tingchun were looking into it. Lately, Payang County seemed calm on the surface, but danger lurked underneath, ready to erupt at any moment. Every faction would not give up the search for the immortal treasure easily, leaving aside whether it was truly possible to refine immortal pills. The mere fact that the abnormal fire could accelerate cultivation using spiritual grain was enough to drive people mad. Take the barbarians as an example. Why have they not been able to invade the Central Plains for 1,000 years? Isn't it because of the scarcity of resources resulting in fewer high-level martial artists than in dashing? But the arrival of spiritual grain completely compensates for this. Spiritual grain matures twice a year and can be found everywhere. It's virtually cost-free. The barbarians would have no difficulty obtaining it. With the immortal treasure, they would be able to mass-produce high-level martial artists. Given enough time, they will inevitably surpass the Central Plains in terms of martial force one day. In other words, whoever possesses an immortal treasure can create a formidable, ferocious army. That includes Chun Sansi himself. Of course, he is currently not qualified to use it. Both Emperor Dashing and the barbarians possess the greatest combat power of this age. A common man is not guilty. Possessing a jade makes him guilty. To legitimately own a treasure, what's most needed is strength that matches it. Otherwise, you're courting death. Sister, I really don't know where to start my investigation, Sun Buki said gloomily. Although lately the martial arts hall has been in frequent contact with the magistrate, it's quite normal for the local powers to pay tribute to the new official. The martial arts hall and the magistrate? Are these two colluding? It's also possible that the magistrate is investigating the martial arts hall. It has nothing to do with me. Even though Chun Sansi wasn't included in the conversation, he didn't interject. After the siblings had left, a man in black clothing who had been watching from a distance finally found an opportunity and approached with a smile. Congratulations to Officer Chan on another breakthrough in your martial arts realm. With such talent, your future is boundlessly promising. The guard of Ji Guangxian? Chun Sansi recognized him. The man in black introduced himself. I am Dan Yuanji. We should have met before. What does Dan Guard want with me? Chun Sansi spoke calmly. The last time Magistrate Ji had some things he did not clarify. Dan Yuanji argued. Lord Prefect's intent was not for you to follow him for life, but to be your patron. After your refining internal organs, he directly recommends you to the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince. Before Chun Sansi could reply, why must Officer Chun insist on clinging solely to Governor Mansion? Dan Yuanji continued, we practice martial arts for a splendid future, right? But do you know that Sun Dusher is getting old? If something unexpected happens to Lord Governor and he has made many enemies at court, how will you, being closely associated with him, cope? It would be better to switch allegiances early and find a reliable backer. Clearly, this was a change in Ji Guangxian's attitude towards him. When the hard approach didn't work, he was ready to try a softer one. Dan Guard's words are not proper. Chun Sansi casually thought of an official-sounding response to fend him off. I joined Governor Mansion, not to seek a backer, but to serve the court. Serve the court, well said. Dan Yunji questioned. Who sits above the court? Naturally, it's the Holy Emperor, Chun Sansi said. Correct. It's the Holy Emperor. Dan Yuanji lowered his voice. But the Holy Emperor is of advanced age. If he passes away, who then will sit above the court? Therefore, only by pledging allegiance to His Highness early can one rapidly ascend to high positions. Pass away. Chun Sansi deliberately raised his voice. How can Dengard speak such nonsense? The Emperor is Emperor Wan Shou, an immortal by nature. How can there be talk of his demise? Emperor Wan Shou, an immortal by nature. These are titles the old emperor gave to himself. He said this, partly to scare Dan Yuanji, and partly because it's hard to say. The immortal treasure proves the existence of immortal trace. The old emperor has been striving for so many years. He must have gained something, right? This supervisor of 4 decades, the crown prince, probably has to endure a few more years. You! Dan Yuanji was startled, his heart trembling, thankful that there was no one nearby. He was somewhat annoyed. If that is the case, there's no need for further discussion. In fact, Lord Prefect was prepared to present you with a secret medicine. But it seems there is no need for that now. Secret medicine? Chun Sansi's eyes lit up. What kind of secret medicine? Indeed, what truly attracts martial artists are things that improve their cultivation. Dan Yuanji felt hopeful, hastily said, Magistrate Ji's ancestors made a fortune from the medicinal herb business, and he possesses an exclusive secret medicine recipe. It was by offering this recipe that he caught the attention of Mr. Gao from the cabinet. He will be transferred to the capital city in a couple of years, which shows how precious this recipe is. But, Lord Prefect said, as long as you agree, you'll have enough of it. Empty promises prove nothing. Chun Sansi said, how about this, you brew a dose first and let me try it. If this medicine is really as powerful as Dengard says, there's no harm in considering a change of allegiance later. Fine. Dan Yuanji agreed at once. Chapter 79 Night Watch. Chun Sansi watched Dan Yuanji leave with contentment and felt a bit of stealthy joy in his heart. It was like someone offering a pillow as soon as he felt sleepy. The medical books had mentioned this. For every martial arts realm, there is a corresponding supplemental medicine that works best. The one targeting the mastery of bone training, the households also had it. But since Ji Guangxian's prescription caught even the lord of the capital's eye, it must be extraordinary. Since it was for free, why not take it? Even if he didn't want to take it, Ji Guangxian wouldn't easily let it go. To take something for free and to buy time to enhance his cultivation were both beneficial. It was a win-win. This Dan Yuanji is an entry-level in refining organ skill. To deal with him, at the very least, one needs to have reached bone forging perfection and also have achieved great arrow skill to have a significant chance of winning. Chun Sansi felt immense pressure. He had just broken through and planned to first check the training state of his subordinates before continuing to cultivate. Recently, Wu De entered the blood cultivation introduction. His talent was mediocre, but he was extremely impulsive. Zhuang Yi was also close to entering blood cultivation. Overall, the progress was still too slow. At least a few people needed to reach the bone training realm to really be effective. When passing by the horse field, it was unusually lively inside. In the spacious field, about 200 people were training in cavalry formations. To attack the grassland tribes, it was indispensable to have horses. For this purpose, Xiang Tingchun had not spared any efforts recently. Extorting silver from the martial arts hall to buy horses, asking for them from the prefecture's guard command, and with the support of the military department, he actually managed to get nearly 300 war horses. However, the war horses were assigned to the old veterans and confidants in the households. Luo Dongquan, Feng Yong, Zhao Kong. Their subordinates were all transformed into cavalry. Past the horse field, there was another large martial arts arena for collective training. Skill. Commanding soldiers. Introduction. Progress. 133/500. Utility. Mainstay. After half a month on autopilot, the progress had only increased this much. Chun Sansi deliberately didn't go near, watching their training from afar. He saw Su Wenkai so angry that his face turned thoroughly red. Many people teased him jokingly. Old man, you can't even perform pile work, and you want to command us? Get lost. Wu De led the laughter, and a group of them burst out laughing. I already heard about you. You studied all your life and never passed the scholar examination. You're also unfilial, able-bodied. So why let your old mother support you? Really don't know what use householder Chun keeps you for. You. Su Wenkai didn't argue but merely held a scroll book, pointing to his scar-faced face. This is the military order. Mr. Chun personally said that I should train your formations. Dare you defy the military order? Wu De, stop making trouble. Zhao Qiao added. Whatever Mr. Chun asks us to do, we must follow. After spending time in the military camp, they gradually became more disciplined, all naturally referring to Chun Sansi as the Lord or Householder Chun. No one called him by his name directly anymore. Don't scare me. With a light shove, Wu De pushed the old scholar to the ground. A bootlicker. You must have deceived Mr. Chun. Bang! A long stick swept across and crashed down on his legs hard. Wu Da's legs were in severe pain, and he knelt down with a thud. Who? He looked up angrily, only to see a glaive-like long spear, and immediately hung his head. Lord, why are you here? Wu De. Chun Sansi was expressionless. Do you think you're very impressive because you were the first one here to enter blood cultivation? Lord, why would you say that? Wu De showed a look of fear. I don't have such thoughts. Chun Sansi narrowed his eyes. If you don't have such thoughts, then what were you just doing? No wonder the proficiency was growing so slowly. Turns out that as long as he wasn't around, this group would each train on their own. They really listened to his words, but the person he appointed to manage them might not necessarily want to listen. This is not acceptable. The army is an institution. Without anyone to help manage, how could he handle it all? Last time, Zhao Jin's issue taught them military discipline. Today, they must be told that military orders are absolute. Sir. Wu De swallowed his saliva and pointed at the old scholar. He knows nothing. How can you let him instruct us in formations? Is it up to me to decide whether he understands military formations? Or is it up to you? Chun Sansi spoke deliberately. Wu De, I give you two choices. 1. Apologize and accept punishment. 2. Go home and hunt. Sir, don't drive me away. Wu De was truly panicked and hastily admitted his fault. I apologize and accept punishment. Apologize and accept punishment. Zhu Tong. Drag him away. 20 military lashes. Chun Sansi ordered. Among all people, Zhu Tong listened to him the most. Zhu Tong was not convinced by Su Wenkai either. But if he said to let Su Wenkai train the troops in formations, Zhu Tong would do as told. All right. Zhu Tong, without a word, summoned 2 men to drag Wu De away for punishment. Those who followed and jeered just now. The same applies to you. Either accept punishment or get lost. Chun Sansi said sternly. Listen clearly. From now on, whoever I appoint to do whatever, those who disagree or have objections can come to me. But anyone who causes trouble behind the scenes will be severely punished without exception. Yes. The crowd nodded repeatedly. All had the same thought in their minds. They knew well that Wu De had initially followed Chun and had gone hunting in the mountains. Knowing him from those early days and seeing that even he was not exempt from punishment, they respected Chun even more. Su Wenkai, Zhao Qiao, you two come with me. Chun Sansi led them to a secluded place and pulled out a silver ingot to hand to Zhao Qiao. Uncle Zhao, buy some golden sore medicine for Wu De later. Don't say it's money from me. He must learn his lesson. All right. Zhao Qiao took the silver and left. He indeed deserves it. He's been too arrogant these days. Sir. Su Wenkai was tearfully grateful. Thank you, sir. If this happens again, just come to me. Chun Sansi patted his shoulder. But let me also make it clear. If they all listen and follow orders, but you fail to train properly, you'll only be fit for menial tasks in the future. Don't worry, sir. Su Wenkai swore. As long as they listen to me, there definitely won't be a problem. Go on. Chun Sansi allowed him to leave. He was not usually a harsh man, but he understood the principles that the kindly do not manage soldiers, the righteous do not manage wealth. An army without iron discipline will never mature. Originally, Shao He pursued Han Xian by the light of the moon. For Liu Bang to suddenly entrust the still obscure Han Xian with a major responsibility was indeed a challenge. Therefore, Chun Sansi needed to cultivate respect and obedience towards his personnel appointments early on. Of course, he also needed to make the right judgment. Whether Su Wenkai was a mule or a horse, one test would reveal the truth. Old Chen. Householder Xiong came looking. Come on. Lord Thousand Households has a mission to assign to us. Central Army Camp. On the central table there was a sand table made not long ago, and behind the main seat a map was hung. Apart from Feng Yong, who was patrolling the Great Wall, the other 8 householders had been summoned together. Everyone is here. Xiang Tingchun was in a great mood, addressing everyone. The official and the Ministry of War have decided that troops will be deployed at the end of March after April. Then, Anding Prefecture Guard will send 1,000 people to strengthen the border defenses, not to mention an additional promise of 500 more troops, including 200 disciples from the Martial Arts Hall. By that time, the usable people at our 1,000 household office will number up to 1,600. The Shi River tribe has 2,000 people, but their bone-training martial artists are far inferior to ours. The scattered tribes do not know military formations, and having not invaded the border for 6 years, they are certainly lax in combat. Therefore, our chances of victory are great. But warfare is no child's play. The above intelligence is from 2 years ago. Before officially formulating a campaign strategy, I need 3 small teams to form Night Watch and verify the enemy intelligence. Night Watch can be understood as scout. However, due to the lone army penetrating enemy territory, it often poses more danger than the usual scouts. Basically, it can be said that once exposed, there's a great likelihood of sacrifice. This task will be arranged by Luo Qianhu. Xiang Tingchun pointed to the Shi River on the sand table. A month from now, I need the intelligence. Chapter 80. Beacon fires a light. Since the higher-up has spoken, I must select the soldiers. Luo Dongchuan's gaze swept across the several hundred households inside the tent. Xiong, Lu, and others didn't dare to raise their heads. No one wanted to undertake this grueling task. Guess why it's called the Night Watch? Soon, Luo Dongquan spoke. Lu Jinkue, Chun Sansi. Each of us will pick 10 men from our subordinates. In a month, we must head to the grassland and ascertain the true state of the Shi River tribe. Xiang Tingchun had just sat down and picked up a teacup when he heard this plan. His eyebrows slightly furrowed, but he didn't speak out against it. This subordinate accepts the order. Lu Jinkue reluctantly accepted the order. Chun Sansi was not a hypocrite. Military orders were as heavy as mountains. He naturally would obey. It's just that having Luo come along as well couldn't help but seem like he harbored ill intentions. I should be the one to go. Wang Ji suddenly stood up. I have reached bone-forging perfection. Am I not stronger than him? 100 households, Wang. Luo Dongquan said coldly. It's not your place to speak, is it? I didn't ask you. Wang Ji shouted towards the main seat. Households Commander Xiang. Luo harbors no good intentions. Fatty Wang, what do you mean by that? Luo Dongquan glared angrily. Do you actually think that I would harm 100 households Chun in secret? Only you know what you're thinking. Wang Ji insisted. Households Commander Xiang. I'm definitely not being overprotective. Chun Sansi can go, but Luo Dongquan cannot. Only one of them can go. Wang Ji, you dare defy a military order? To hell with you. Being Deputy 1,000 Households is so important, huh? Do you believe I'll report you to the Department of Soldiers? Go ahead and report. See if I'm scared? Enough! Xiang Tingchuan's fist thunderously slammed on the desk. Wang Ji, you will go along with Chun Sansi. A wise decision. Wang Ji immediately changed to a sycophantic expression. This subordinate guarantees to complete the mission. Once the assignment was given, the group dispersed. Old Luo. Xiang Tingchun, with eyes closed, inquired. You were supposed to include Feng Yong, Zhao Kong, and Lu Jinkue. Why did you change it without authorization? I said after spring, do what you will with him, but right now I need this man. This subordinate deserves to die. Luo Dongquan kneeled on one knee. But sir, the son's siblings are present, and Magistrate Ji is also courting him. If I wait till then, where will I get the chance? Wait a bit longer. Xiang Tingchuan's cheeks creased and then smoothed as he finally said, at the very least, he must die on the main battlefield. Sir, I understand. Luo Dongquan bowed his head low. That damned Luo Dongquan. As soon as he walked out of the tent, Lu Jinkue burst into curses. I used to treat him to meals all the time. Now that he's been promoted, he assigns me this deadly task. Entry-level refining internal dares to be arrogant. Wang Ji spat. If it were the past, I would have split him in two right there. Zhao Kong and the rest pretended not to hear and quickly left. Xiong Chuan followed with curses. I've always seen he's no good. Sure. Don't panic. Wang Ji sneered. I'll go with you. Luo wouldn't dare to do anything. Thanks. Chen Sansi expressed his gratitude. With him accompanying, there was at least no need to worry about being directly assassinated. Still, I'm too weak. Otherwise, who would dare harbor evil thoughts? Complaining was useless. All he could do was devote himself to his cultivation. He must also prepare for the trip to the grassland. Chen Sansi returned to the martial arts arena to pick those for the night watch.
Zutong, Zhuangyi, Zaha Xiao, Li Dazhi, Xia Erniu.
He picked 5, Wang Ji picked 5. Sir, what about me? Wang Li was surprised. Let me go with you. You stay behind in my absence. You're responsible for helping Su Wenkai with the military drills. Chen Sansi said. This Wang Li usually keeps quiet, yet his cultivation speed is not slow at all, tightly following Zhu Tong. Most importantly, he has a stable personality, follows orders, and doesn't cause any trouble. Yes. Wang Li accepted the orders. You 5 go to the horse field later. Someone will specifically train you in horse control skill. Going to the grassland without a horse is not possible. The matter was settled. Several days passed in a flash. Chen Sansi routinely practiced cultivation and made medicine. After bone strengthening, it was time for skin training. To practice skin training, one couldn't rely solely on training. It required enduring, painful tempering as well. There were 2 kinds of tempering tools. One was sandstone rough salt, the other was iron sand. Depending on the tool used, the tempering effects varied. Naturally, Chen Sansi chose iron sand. A wooden barrel was filled with specially made iron sand. He entered the barrel naked. It was as if he plunged into a mountain of knives and a sea of fire. Even though Chen Sansi was mentally prepared, he was still tortured until his facial features twisted. He forced himself to endure for 10 minutes before jumping out. His body bloody and not a single patch of good flesh remained. He quickly took out his ointment. This black jade protective body ointment was extremely expensive, costing 500 taels per box and only lasting for 20 days. Even at the bone training realm, the consumption of resources was astronomically expensive. No wonder many talented martial artists were willing to serve major families or martial arts halls like dogs. Soldiers in the military fought desperately with the hope of exchanging military merits, but how could Jianghu wanderers afford it? The black ointment, like mud, coated his entire body, bringing a wave of coolness. Threads and strands of medicinal power continuously repaired the surface wounds on his body. Training the skin in this way would not only avoid damaging the skin, but also make it smoother and more delicate. No wonder it was so expensive. After all, the medicinal herbs used inside were very precious. After deciphering the formula, Chen Sansi managed to mix about a box of it. Any more than that, and there wouldn't be any left. After all, the medicinal herbs obtained from Medicine Valley were just one of the many medicinal gardens, most of which were ingredients for replenishing essence soup and medicine baths. When it was used up, he would borrow some from Brother Liang's place. Chen Sansi made up his mind. Cultivation technique. Undying golden snake spear. Advanced. Mastered. Progress. 105/1000. Too slow. The greatest increase in his cultivation speed was through spiritual grain. But the absorption efficiency was just too slow. Originally planned, he had 4 more months to refine his internals, provided he continuously consumed spiritual grain. But the more he practiced, the more Chen Sansi dared not consume too much. The poison in the meridians was no joke. Forget it. Rushing is useless. Chen Sansi could only keep comforting himself, packing up his belongings and leaving the cave to go down the mountain and return home. It was dusk. The remaining sunlight of the setting sun reflected off the twilight sky. The military settlement was peaceful and serene. Every household was making fire for cooking, the wafting smoke rising up through the chimneys into the sky like long white dragons soaring. Brother Shi is back. Gu Xinlan came out to meet him. Subin's pregnant wife, Sister Tong, was also there. She slightly bowed in greeting. Greetings to 100 household Chun. Brother Shi, Sister Tong said to have dinner at her place tonight. The wine and dishes are all ready. Brother Shi, what are you looking at? Mr. Chen, what's so interesting about the chimney? Chen Sansi had not heard a word from them. His eyes were fixed on the sky, his expression serious. Among the white dragons, a black dragon had mingled. That was not smoke from cooking. It was a beacon fire. It had been many years since Payong 1,000 households had dealt with warfare. Now a beacon fire was lit, and even the families living in the military settlement had not noticed the anomaly in time. Buzz! Enemy attack! Enemy attack! All soldiers assemble! Assemble! The order officer's loud voice, accompanied by the sound of horse hooves, rang through the military settlement.